A massive thanks to all of my supporting members and patrons. Thank you all so very much. That's happened again. Hello, good evening and welcome. I pressed the button and it didn't kerfuffle, did it? So I had to press it again. I'll have to watch out for that. Anyway, hello, welcome. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to try and adjust this because I'm not getting any... That's better. Mic seemed dead to me because it feeds back through my headphones. That was rather an impressive stream, the live premiere. I think we had 282 watching at the peak, maybe a few more, not sure. And as you saw, we had In-Rem in there. And for those of you who weren't sitting around all afternoon in the chat waiting for the premiere, we also had Flatty McFlatface was in there briefly, and Dell from Beyond the Imaginary Curve. He actually came out of his shed and came on here. He didn't just say hello though. Oh no, he splurged rubbish all over the place for about 30 minutes, absolutely plastered the chat. So with Flatty McFlatface, because he basically accused me of, I'm not sure what exactly, saying it's all a scam anyway, I saw he's got his email on his channel. So I did email him and I have invited him. Let me just check, because when I last checked, he hadn't replied. No, and it's not in the junk folder. No, nothing. But Flatty McFlatface has been invited. So mods, if you see him or if he turns up in the Discord, please let me know. Let me know, and we'll try and get him on here, because I'll happily talk to him about it. That's not a problem. You know me. I would not give him loads of abuse and mute him and boot him and all that crap. Dale. He, as I said, he was rather vocal, and I did reply. Well, he'd been making loads of messages and people were arguing back with him. I made a reply and then he stopped and he ran away, but his user was still sort of connected in. You could see it on the list of people who were there. So I did reply to him again and say, look, come along, join in the stream, let's talk about it. He didn't say another word. So Dell, if you're listening, Flatty McFlatface, the flattest face in all Flatshire, come on in. We can talk about it, okay? Like I said, is it a scam? I don't know. I am not saying you are scammers. Right, let's have a few hellos. It'll have to be brief at random, so if I miss you out, please do not be offended. Ugly German Truce, as ever, LB Things and Stuff and more. Oh, big hello and thank you to, oh God, what's his name? Matt Powell Unofficial, who's just become a member of the channel. Thank you, my friend. And do you have an inflatable banana in your backyard? And if so, what do you call it? But thank you for becoming a member. I really appreciate that. Second best Bob, hello, you missed it. Oh dear, oh dear. Andreas out, you too. This is terrible. How can you miss it? I think we had about a 50% population of flat earthers. I did actually thank them. I said, oh look, 280 odd views. Thanks, flat earthers. What are UK? Oh, Mohammed Shafiq, Cygnus TSP. I'm scrolling back. Robert Adset, hello. Arc Angelus Lunai, good evening to you. And Nerd Angle, Revalvit, hello to you. And Sabre Legal. Sorry about that comment earlier on, Sable. And of course, Beyond the Imaginary Shed. I'd like to say no to you. I'm sure everyone else, no. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. Oh, I just seen as a super chat. Let's just, let's have a refresh on this page. That's the problem with this. As you know, and I'll say every time, my Streamlabs, for whatever reason, doesn't update me with super chats, so I have to manually go and have a look. It's from Alyssum for $2 Australian dollars, saying, sending love from the bottom of the globe. Smiley face. Thank you, Alyssum. And hello to you too, and all of Oz and your fellow Oslings. Big hello. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that video. I really did. And a couple of people spotted, and the name's gone straight up. Oh, The Sting. I based the idea of the way I did that on the film, The Sting, with the old time cards between with the ragtime music. It was the entertainer in between each. If you haven't seen that film, it really is worth a watch. Yeah, so I thought it was quite appropriate. Yeah, Force the Line. It's got them all triggered, hasn't it? Even George Hnatiuk had commented on there. He's had a lot of people looking at his video lately, and I haven't got a link to it on here, but on the live premiere is a link to George's channel and his video all about the Force the Line thing. Hey, as we all know, I'm not the best at maths, so most of that stuff, it's just whoosh to me. Clever guy, very clever guy. But I'm sure there's plenty here who can follow what he's saying. So you might like to check out his video and check out his channel, because, yeah, he points out how Force the Line can't work. George's response was, I think, about 2-3 years ago to the original experiment idea, and in his style he just showed why it won't work, and I believe he came up with a suggestion of a different way of possibly doing it, because let's be clear, as an idea it is sound. Because assuming you could build that forced line absolutely straight and the top rail is following the curve of the earth, you will get those two rails apparently moved together. But that's like saying, I want a GoFundMe because I'm going to produce absolute vacuum or reach absolute zero. Okay, it's a good idea, nice idea. It's something that could exist in theory, but you're not going to be able to do it, and certainly not going to be able to do it, unless you've got all the very, very best and technical equipment and scientific ability and so on. A few blokes with some stakes, nails, and a tape measure and a level from the local Wick store is not going to cut it. So yeah, mathematically it is fine. It's the execution of it that is, I guess, to be absolutely accurate, you couldn't say it's absolutely impossible, but it's so close to as making no damn difference. We saw that Dubai, I'm not sure who he was showing his video where they actually had a post and a rail. Well, two things. One, they got it wrong. You're not going to want to put the rail on top of the post, otherwise you're going to have to make sure every post is the same height. There's nothing wrong with having a post higher than the rail, so why would you do it to try and do that? Because then you've got another variable. But yeah, he showed it, the people with that. It may have just been an example photo with a wooden post and rail. That's not going to cut it, because just moisture content in the air changes wood constantly. That's why wood splits. Yeah, so that's not going to work at all. It's going to have to be metal. Then you get other problems. Now, I've forgotten who it was. It might have been actually on Brian Mullen's channel, because when you leave everything else aside, he was saying that, we could build this as a monument, permanent monument, or actually it could have been Dubai, I'm not sure. And he was saying that you'd galvanise it all so it doesn't rust. Well, if you've ever had anything to do with galvanising metal, I did with my Land Rover, because I had the chassis built. So let's say you get that metal absolutely perfect. You hot dip galvanise it, you've thrown everything out, because you're putting on a layer. You get thick bits and thinner bits and bubbles and what do we call them? Not hangers, but where a drip has come off, so you get a little spiky bit. All sorts of things. So basically, your CNC'd metal, if that's what you're going to do, that's gone straight out the window, because you've coated everything in gloopy, you know, I can't even think what, zinc. You've galvanised it with zinc. Yeah, you're going to protect it, but you've ruined any accuracy you've got. Then, of course, we've got all those connections. And as George says, that angle between the two, you'd have to have that at a maximum of 766 atoms. Good luck with that. Now, I was thinking, because he's saying it's just it was 1/7 of the wavelength of green light. And I was thinking about things like the Hubble Space Telescope and other things like that, where they grind those mirrors down to those sort of scales. It's not something that you can take to your local shop and get them. Yeah, can you just smooth this off a bit? Oh yeah, just down to 766 atoms or less. That'll be fine. It's not going to happen like that. I suppose that with whatever treatment and cutting and grinding and whatever, you could eventually get a piece to that sort of accuracy. But how long that would take and how much that costs, I don't know. But you're going to need 1,058 of them. Yeah, again, good luck with that. And then, of course, let's go to the next problem. You've got all your posts. You've got them galvanised to protect them. Or not, because you're just not going to worry about it rusting away. That's fine. You've got your 1,058 connectors. You've laid it all out. You've constructed it all. Brilliant. Metal expands and contracts. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did put into a calculator with a coefficient of expansion for steel per degree. I can't remember what it worked out over a 2 mile length, but it was something. I think it was something like 60 or 70 centimetres. So that's going to snap your posts at each end and more, unless you have them so that the thing can freely move, in which case then you're making it even more complicated, because you could have to have that rail sat perfectly in some sort of support. It's just not going to happen with the very best will in the world. It's just not going to happen. Not at all. So then you've got the money. So for a start, as I showed, there's some other guys just set up an account. He said, I'm not connected to this because I couldn't donate, so I'm collecting. So what's going to happen with $50,000 you were after, mate? Are you going to sign it all over to Flatty McFlatface? You're just going to give it to him? I did notice, though, that no one, not even a Flat Earther, was dumb enough so far to have donated to that one. But it's worrying, because people do. Because, okay, let's be absolutely fair. Some people, perhaps, still genuinely believe that and therefore want to prove it. That's sad, but it's fine. This is just ripping them off. If it was an experiment that had some possibility of producing some reasonable results, whatever those results were, you'd think fair enough. But this can't. That was my point at the end when I said that even if, because I don't know Flatty McFlatface, he might be the very honest of people, okay? He really may. So Flatty, let's treat it as that. If you're going to, if you're thinking, I want to do this experiment, well then you need to investigate it a lot. You need to watch George Hnatiuk's video and understand it, or talk to George and let him explain it. He'll have to dumb it down. That's not being rude. He'd have to dumb it down for me and probably to most of us. But yeah, you're going to need to talk to him, because I was thinking again, this is like the equivalent of me saying that I'm a green skyer and I'm going to prove the sky is green and not blue. You're all saying, but it's blue. No, I'm going to prove it, because I'm going to build a tower 500 metres tall from 2 befores. I'm going to charge you £100,000, and when I get to the top of the tower, I'm going to see that the sky is green. That's how it feels to us, because we all know the sky is blue, and what's more, we all know that going up to the top of that tower ain't going to change it. Plus, you ain't going to build that tower from 2 befores without the whole lot collapsing. And you've just asked for a shed load of money from people who maybe there's some who are wealthy and it doesn't matter, but there's going to be plenty of people who can't really afford that money. So even if you were genuine, in effect, you've harmed them for something that isn't even possible. Just having a quick look just in case he hasn't turned up. Conan or whoever, please let me know if either Flatty or Del turn up. I'm certainly not expecting Del to turn up, not after his shout and then run away thingy. I did see there's another couple of super chats during my rant, so let's have a quick look at that. All right, the ramblings of a madman. Well, he's rambled away for £2 sterling. Thank you, ramblings. What have I missed? I've just got notified. Well, nothing really. Nothing really. Possible scam for £100,000. Flat earthers being ripped off left, right, and centre. Aside from that, nothing really. Oh, and I showed off my lovely new hairstyle. Thank you, man. And second best, Bob. Thanks, Bob. £5. Have this enormous amount of... Oh, I'm going to have to... Here we go. Enlarge the thing. Have this enormous amount of money, but please tell me what I missed. Okay, you missed everything that's in the link in the description. Thanks, Bob. And Alyssum, again, from Australia. $2 again. To get accurate funding, he is missing a few zeros. Yeah, and that's the other thing, of course. Not just protection of those who are donating, protection, Flatty, if you're listening, I hope you are, protection for you as well. Okay? And I mean this genuinely. Let's say you get a substantial amount of money. Forget your 100,000. You get, you got 3, or nearly 4 so far. Let's say you get, I don't know, £20,000. You've been transferring that into your bank account. Your bank account. Okay? And some people, for whatever reason, because it's bound to be some, are going to get unhappy anyway about it. Oh, I want my money back, it's a rip-off. That'll happen. You're going to have to, if someone reports it in some way as some sort of scam, you're going to have to justify it. How dodgy is that, from your position, legally speaking, to have that money going through your personal accounts? It's not good. I mean, I run Mr. Sensible as a small business. It's got a separate account from my personal accounts. Some of it has to transfer directly through, because I don't know, a PayPal payment will come in through my PayPal account, but it goes into my and straight out to the accounts the same day, so you can see it. But you are setting yourself up big time, okay? And this is me honestly trying to be helpful. Okay, you are setting yourself big time for a world of hurt if anyone gets litigious about this. And as someone else said, and I hadn't even thought about it, have you even considered the tax implications? Tax on £100,000, because this is in effect being run as a business proposition. You are so putting yourself at risk, McFlatty. You really are. Yeah. Now, all those people like Daniel Pratt, who was in the chat as well. Wow, I had them all tonight. I've had Del, McFlatty, Dan Pratt, in rem no less. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen him on anyone's stream. I think that some of them are feeling a bit triggered. As I said, I am not saying it's a scam, but I am saying that people are going to get hurt. People are going to get really annoyed. Let's say you get that money and you have a crack at building this fence, because that's all it is. You have a crack at building this fence. Let's say you get the whole thing constructed for reasons already given about things like expansion, contraction, the business of making the joints accurately enough and all that sort of thing. You come up with a result. It's not going to be accepted for all those reasons. You are going to have to be able to rule all those problems out. And I was saying about expansion and contraction. I was also thinking about that. If you're doing this from sort of box section steel, which I think would be the only possibility, so you don't get bend or flex this way or bend or flex that way, you've got box section. it doesn't take much temperature differential between the top and the bottom, the sun shining on it, whatever, to get different expansion rates, and then your box section will bend. It's not good. Not good at all. Sidewalder, bums, I missed the beginning. What the hell is forced align? That's all right, Si. It was a cracking idea by a flat earther who was an engineer several years ago, and now they're trying to realise it and asking for a shed load of money. Oh, Gary Wybenga, hello to you. I'm not talking about any of that stuff, am I? I'm talking about, and I'm trying to protect people perhaps like you who may contribute money to this Force the Line. Because as I said in the video, if you were able to get the money, get all the stuff, make every connection perfect, have materials that didn't bend, expand, contract and all that sort of thing, so that that forced line was 100% absolutely straight, I know you're going to see a curved earth. So I'm not trying to sweep it under the carpet. I'm literally trying to save you and other people an awful lot of money. Nothing I can do about the person who stumped up 500 quid, and I feel very sorry for them. There was talk, I think, in Phuket Wood's video, I think the GoFundMe may have been temporarily stopped for investigation. Because that's when he was saying about if I can get the money into my account. Yeah, so that would be good, because I don't think it's valid for a GoFundMe. Even if it's honest, it's not valid. I did want to scroll back. Has Giganta come by yet? Oh, Mr. 42. Hello, good evening. I haven't seen him. Yet. Yeah, I mean, I talked, but big props to Nick. I mean, whatever his beliefs are, he did ask those two questions. How did you come up with 100,000? And basically, he basically said, I pulled it out my arse because I thought that sounded like a good figure. It might motivate people. I thought about 500,000. So, firstly, that's a massive. It's not 100 or 120. I can't. You know what I mean? The calculations are no 5 times the amount he was thinking of. So, based on what? That, McFlatty, is extremely dodgy. If you came up with costings and said, right, it's 1,058 rails, they need to be made of this stuff, and they cost £23 each, and then I've chatted to contractors, and I've got a quote, it's set each one is this much, and so on, to cost your experiment, it's £100,000. At least you'd have some justification. Right now, you've got, I thought it might motivate people. Not good. Not good at all. What happened to Arnold the cat? Well, Arnold has been around today, but not right now. He's because I've been doing my shifts working at home. He likes my other office chair, which is temporarily up there, so he's been sat there a lot. Couple of things, just general news first. I've got my second COVID jab coming up on the 20th of May. Looking forward to that. And I start working back at my office as of this Saturday, which I'm not so looking forward to. I'm working the office is okay, but then when you chuck on, you've got to pay for travel, plus it makes your day that bit longer. That's not so much fun. But the work would be more interesting. Sales swings and roundabouts. And I did see, I think it was you, Watto UK, if you're still around, said, what about that item I bought? The item. Yes, someone else asked about that. I actually spoke to the company that are dealing with it right now. Day before yesterday, they told me it was currently at that point in the workshop, and they take deliveries from their workshop on Thursdays, which is today. So if it came in on Thursday, they'd ring me. They haven't. So it's going to be another week. So I'm hoping that it'll be next Thursday, in which case I can quickly shoot the last little bits of video Friday/Saturday morning or whatever, and it'd be nice to have another premiere live stream jobby on that. That will be fun, because I'm getting desperate about it as well. And I honestly haven't been trying to wind up people about this, because I know it's been a while. It's been a while for you. You think how it feels for me. Where are we? Truth nerds, excuse me. I don't know what's up with me. I've been struggling to get up in the mornings and struggling to stay awake in the evenings, but there we go. Truth nerds, €2. Force the line already exists. It's called LIGO. Absolutely right, truth nerds. And I've forgotten who it was. One of the flirts was in the chat. It might be in REM arguing against LIGO, because that was the thing. They had to make it straight. They had to force the line so it was sort of laser straight to allow for the laser that's inside it in a hard vacuum. There's your forced line, and guess what? It's higher at each end. So yeah, actually that would actually back up Mullins' idea. But how much did LIGO cost to actually? I'm not talking about all the other equipment, but just to build that, so it was dead straight. I suspect that was rather more than £100,000. John Watson, £5. Keep up the good work, sir, and stay sensible. Thumbs up. Well, thumbs up to you too, John. Thank you. Oh, and I've had a little flurry of new patrons. Thank you all. Appreciate it. I have managed today to get you on the patron reel, so keep an eye out. Your name should appear, or names should appear below, and you were on the patron reel at the start, and you will be at the end. Under the beautiful dulcet tones of the Snark and Henriette Hamer with the sensible Sandman song. And Adam Yukowski, $5 Canadian. I donated £5 to their GoFundMe. Oh, again, I have to maximise that page. I donated £5 to their GoFundMe because I want to see it fail. I did see that someone had donated under the name of Buzz Aldrin. Yeah. I don't know how GoFundMe works. I know that there's guarantees. Excuse me again. I know there's guarantees for donators under certain circumstances, and they can get their money back. I also don't know if with GoFundMe / Kickstarter, if they don't meet the target of 100,000, does the money all get refunded or not taken? Or is it a case of, well, they made 20, they get 20? I saw someone saying they can take out money as soon as they got it. And where's it going to go? Into McFlatty's bank account. Dodgy. Oh, right, Gary, you're talking about navigation. Or they're talking about navigation on the globe. Martin H., hello to you. Bob Nadell's gyroscope. Oh, Gary, you're getting messages deleted. Come on, pal, you know how it is. We don't mind you being in here. We don't mind you entertaining us with your teachings. But no rude. I don't know what it was you said, but you're obviously getting messages deleted. I can only assume that that's through. Oh, there's one. Let's have a quick look. Right, you've mentioned Greater Sapien a few times. What I'm going to sort of give a ruling on this, Gary. Right, I have never come across whoever that is, and I know nothing about it. Okay, so I don't want it discussed in my chat. All right, so that's not to say whether you're right or wrong about it. I don't know, but since you're talking about things and scams and things, I don't want chat about that in my chat about a person who obviously isn't here, can't defend themselves from whatever. Okay, so steer clear of that, please, Gary. The item, how could I forget, says ST Hurston, or STH Hurston, or Thurston, I don't know. Oh, Mohammed Shafiq, 20th May is the same day as the big court case at Westminster Mags. Fiona Hine. Yes. If you haven't seen Mohammed Shafiq's channel, you really should check it out. You dig out some interesting things, Mo. You really do. And that's the 20th of May. 23rd of May, is my birthday. I think it's a Sunday. Is that a Sunday? On 23rd of May, let's have a look. Yeah, it is. That's Saturday. Oh, I'll be off. I'll be off on my birthday. Ooh, how about a stream? Incidentally, I've forgotten who it was. Someone said, because we got the Mr. Sensible members emojis, like, let's just try and find one if I can, like that I just popped into chat. They said, oh, how about a new emoji? The number of emojis depend on the number of members. YouTube's not exactly generous in that, because I don't see whether it makes much difference to them if I've got 10 or 20 emojis, but there we go. But I actually have a slot for a spare emoji. Okay, so just as a friendly little challenge, if people want to design a Mr. S emoji and whiz it over to me at some point, maybe by the 23rd, what I'll do is I'll get the members at that time, whoever's a member, thank you Irish for posting that lot, whoever's a member at that time to vote for which one they want to be as a new emoji, and I can keep the others for a later point. So even if you're not a member, you could get one of your little designs for an emoji as an emoji on my streams. And I've just seen, I've been receiving some messages. Yes. Yeah, sorry. Colon's just sent me some pictures of LIGO. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. Yeah. Thanks, C. Definitely. And in other news, now lockdown is easing here in the UK. I'm looking to hopefully soon team up with Q again, so we can get into initial discussions for Mage 3. Oh yeah, oh yes indeed. We need another mage just to drive another nail into the coffin that was formerly known as Flat Earth. How sad. Oh dear, how sad. Never mind. Oh dear, oh dear. S. Thurston, is that supposed to be an emoji? Oh yeah. I just thought I haven't put any conditions on what emojis can be, have I? It will be at the decision of my members at the time, okay? Oh, Simon Spencer's birthday's on the 22nd. Yes. Happy birthday to you, Simon. I wonder if you're older. Because, you know, I've still got my boyish good looks and charm, of course. So have we got... No, we haven't. We still haven't got... Dan? Dell? God damn. Still haven't got Dell. So after all that mouthing off, and he was saying about how he was calling me and others, he was saying he was our master, and he had bashed us, and he can't wait to chew me up and spit me up and all that sort of thing. Oh, the brave words did fly. Oh, keys were pressed in a warrior-like fashion. But when push came to shove, he was too scared to come on here and talk several hundred miles apart. Dell. No. Oh, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. Let me have a quick look again to make sure I've got it all properly. Refresh. That's cracking, actually. All right, a couple of things. Chris Holmes. Hello, good evening, Chris. Oh, that's Father Christmas, Chris Holmes, isn't it? Yes, I remember. Hasn't this experiment already been done? Oh, £4.99, thank you. Hasn't this experiment already been done with every single large span suspension bridge across the world? Oh, yes, we've got to talk about that as well. And David Oliver. Yes, your idea, David. Super chat £5 sterling. I think Arnie on a lunar buggy would make an excellent emoji. Well, yeah, of course, he does appear at the start of every stream and video. I would need someone... I mean, all I could do is shrink it in size. So whether anything would show, I don't know, because I'm not very artistic either. At all. I can use a paint roller. I'm dab-an with a roller, I am. I can do a rollering the likes of which even God hasn't seen. but edges and anything else, no. I'm right out there. Sorry. So, where are we? You just scrolled up. David. Yeah, I mean, if you're an arty person, or if anyone else wants to do that on David's behalf, please just send me one. So what I'm after is a little emoji. Is it? I think it might have to be 100 by 100 pixels. So you don't have a lot to work with. Ideally on a transparent background. And let's see what we get. And I'll show them all to all the members. Because they're the ones who get to use emojis. Send them to all the members and let them choose which one they want to be as a new sensible emoji. And I see David Oliver's put the full set of them there again. Thank you. LB things and stuff and more and other things. Do you know what? Have you ever heard of the Society against the putting of things on top of other things, LB? I got shotgun on Mage 3. Laughs and hearts. Wow. Yeah, I will talk with Q. I'm not going to commit to anything, okay, because there's other reasons. But I'll keep people in the loop about planning for Mage as we get nearer the time. As I said, right now I've just dropped him a line and we're talking about, at some point, getting together so we can do a rundown of what... Excuse me again. Ridiculous. Do a rundown of what is and isn't possible on Mage, and then from that what I would or would not want to do. He's actually had an interesting thought, but I don't know. Andreas Elt, good evening, Andreas. This is so annoying, this having to refresh it. For 50 Swedish krona. Thank you, Andreas. Speaking of LEGO, my Lego music machine is less complicated, yet no one I've talked to understands how it works. Yes, if anyone's seen Wintergarten's Marble Machine X, Andreas is basically building something a little bit along those lines out of Lego. Andreas, I was amazed at it. Absolutely amazed. Thank you for the super chat. Oh gosh, I'm missing stuff here. Vector or raster? I think it's PNG or JPEG, isn't it? I've got software. The software I've got is GIMP. So if it's something I can open up as in GIMP, I guess I can save it in the relevant thing. But good point, and Mo, very good point. Monty Python, yes. When I came over here, I saw some things that were not on top of other things. Shame, shame, shame on you. Yes. Well done, Rob. And well done those couple of people who spotted the sting in the premiere earlier on. Chris Holmes, super chat at £4.99. Adolf Hitler, there was a painter. He painted a room in one afternoon. 2 coats. I know he's a painter. Fairly mediocre one, I understand. But I'll be honest and say I don't get the joke about painting a room and 2 coats. Perhaps I better not ask. Yes, suspension bridges. Oh, poor little Level of Earth Observer got all triggered. He really got triggered when I challenged him about cranes. He doesn't get this whole thing with suspension bridges, where, I'll move back a bit, you've got 2 towers, each of which are perpendicular to the surface of the Earth, but the tops are further away than the bottoms. So he was saying that I was claiming they were out of plumb, that they weren't true. No, this one is true. This one is true. They're just diverged from each other. They're not leaning because each one is upright, and he cannot grasp that. So he gave an example of a tower crane, and he was saying how it leans back at the top with this cat's head thing, the sort of apex piece, to enable it to basically to balance. Now, I must admit, he may be talking slightly cross purposes. I know what he's mean about the tower leaning, but that's got nothing to do with the curve of the Earth anyway. Because it's leaning that way because it's got the counterbalance there. Then when you put the load, it will pull more straight. Yes, but the reason it's got the cat head on top is nothing to do with that. It's purely to strengthen the jib and the counter jib, because the cranes without those, the flat tops, cannot pick up anywhere near the same sort of loads. Although, as I said, there's a few specialist ones that can pick up heavier loads, because there's nothing to help support the jib and counter jib. So Leo, me old cupcake, my china, that's what we're talking about. The cat head is for strength. Yes, a tower crane may lean because of its counterweight until it picks up its load. Yeah, because you don't want it upright and then pick up the load and lean forward. Absolutely. I didn't say that wasn't the case. And with the suspension bridge towers, they're not leaning at all. The catenary cable, the cable that goes up, actually goes through them or over them, if you could think of it resting on the top. And the cable is free to move, because suspension bridges move. With, for instance, in high winds, they can move around, so the cables have got to move. They're not fastened to those towers, they're not pulling them. And here's an interesting fact for you, Mr. Level Earth Observer. The Verrazano Narrows Bridge, in summer, the deck is 12 feet lower than it is in the winter due to the expansion of all the cables and so on. So if that's fastened to the towers, you've got a problem. You total chuff nugget. So yeah, that's the good thing about doing all this stuff. You learn so much information, and then you can be out for a meal with your friends and you say, did you know that the Verrazano Narrows Bridge is 12 foot lower in the summer due to expansion? And everyone will be very impressed, and women will throw themselves at your feet or something probably. Anyway, yeah, so I have learnt tons and tons and tons of stuff about all sorts of things. So, you're all caught up now, Signalist Bob. Oh, is George Hnatiuk there? Is George in the chat? George, if you are there, oh, yes, you are. Am I giving him hell? I hope so, George. George, would you like to jump onto the Discord? Colon's put the link in there, and there should be a link in the description under the video. All you need is headphones and a mic, so you don't have to be on camera. I would love to speak to you. We have to dumb it down for me. Yes, Matt Shedler, the GIMP. Bring out the GIMP. That's what I say. Oh yeah, that was something that talking about stuff like Dell when he was in there earlier. What did he do? He used disableist hate speech twice. So the word he'd used, I'd not. Well, I mean, I've heard of it before, obviously, but I'd not seen anyone use. No one else has been as disgusting as to use it before. It's now in the banned list of words, so he can't use it anymore. George, yeah, that'd be great, man. That'd be great if you can get in. I'd love to talk to you about it. Now, there's a clever guy. Who's a clever guy? No, I'd be honoured, George, if you could come in. And I do thank you. I do thank you for... What's up with this? Yeah, the stuff you did, the calculations you did, showing it was less than the... wavelength of light. Now there's some. Does he come in? I don't. George. I don't know what name George will appear under if he comes in. So if I don't spot it, Colon, can you? He's here. Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay. So I've got that. Let me grab them. So let's bring them in. And switch on the desktop. Hello, George. Oh, no, I just switched off the desktop. Hello, George, you there? Hello, George. George, you got your mic muted. And let's bring in TheRumpus as well. Hello, Rumpus.
Hello, Mr. S.
Yeah,
Hello.
I'll be right with you. I'm trying to quiet down the YouTube feed.
Yeah, George and I don't know if you're aware of it, but when George had this little discussion about the force line in Brahman, he and I were in constant debate about this thing and coming up with all with it, and so we're familiar with this. And George made that video as a result of we were discussing it all the time. And you're well done for picking it up, because as George did, the analysis is pretty simple actually. But George is absolutely right that you have to join these things to the resolution, as he said, of the wavelength of light, or just a couple of hundred atoms.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. People don't realise, as I've said many times, the Earth is very flat. And to get something even flatter is very difficult.
This is it. It all comes down to scale. If we were talking about a ball a few hundred feet across, then it's going to be easy enough to make a straight line straight enough to demonstrate that the surface is curving down. But on the scale we're talking about, no.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Over a mile, it only goes down by 8 inches. There are very few things that you can build to that resolution. And LIGO, has been cited a couple of times, is the one example where they had to put a lot. And they did that actually with GPS. So they used a differential GPS to do that. But golly goodness. And also they had the advantage, once they got a vacuum tube there, you could actually shine a laser down it, and you would be able to guarantee that it was a straight line because there'd be no refraction issues.
That's right. They have it in a vacuum.
That's right.
Yeah. But I mean, Sorry.
Let me quickly say, you made a good point about the thing sliding, and it's another issue that I didn't actually discuss with George.
Expansion.
And not just the expansion. And as you say, you'd have to allow it to slide over it, or something like that. But also, you've got another issue, which I must admit, it only occurred to me when you mentioned that, was that you have to have all the supports at exactly the right height. Because obviously the whole point of those supports to hold up the beams is if they weren't there, the beams would sag.
Yes.
So that you have to have exactly the same resolution of the beam, of the supports.
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
Which means that they also have to be at the same resolution. How do you position those? Because you can't use the beam, because the beam's the thing is the thing you're trying to set up.
That's right.
You've got double problems.
It's a bit circular, isn't it? And I mean, you've got your lovely made beam, and you're trying to position it. You can't just get a bracket and a couple of wood screws or whatever, or bolts, because as you said, you've got to get the position of it right. Exactly. I mean, the actual mathematical idea of Mullins, it's fine. Yeah, if you could build that, it would show it, but you can't build it.
Don't tell George about things, because he's an engineer, you see. So he deals with what you can do in reality, and of course we can do lots of things in maths. We have infinity in maths. We have lots of things we can do in maths. We can have a star, a black hole in maths, but you can't manipulate. We can have testing gravity and have a little black hole to play with, but you can't do that in reality. It's what physics deals with. And then when you have a bit of physics and you get someone like an engineer trying to do something real, then you get into real problems. I mean, for instance, semiconductors and things. Lots of things. If you had for instance, imperfections in crystal structures, you could have incredibly small semiconductors, even smaller than we have now, with quantum mechanical effects now we're getting into. But nonetheless, you could do all sorts of orders of magnitude things better in maths and in physics than you can actually do in reality. And when you're dealing with reality, as I say, I had only occurred to me when you said it about you've got a circular problem, as you said, that you've got to be able to position the supports of the beams to the same accuracy of the beams, and you can't use the beams to position the supports. So you've got two problems.
Can I just say that someone said, you have to have really, really flat land. Well, in fact, you wouldn't. You could have humps and bumps and whatever, as long as your posts were tall enough that your two rails are well above, you're good to go. So the actual contours of the land don't matter. It's just, for instance, if you're going over hills, you're going to need bloody tall posts. But
the key problem is if we now have the problem, which, as I say, I've just sort of discerned, that you have to position the posts at the right height to make sure there's no twisting on the beams or sagging, so they're fully supported. Then you've got to decide what's your reference, and obviously the ground can't be used as the reference to give the structure, because you're going back to the original problem. How do you get a straight line?
Well, you. Oh, sorry, is that you, George? Are you there?
He's back. Yes, George.
Here. In a nutshell, it doesn't matter with it.
You're distorted, George. We can barely hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get on another system.
That's better.
I can't do anything about that.
It's coming in and out, George. We can barely hear you.
Mr. Sensible.
Hello, George.
No.
You're terrible.
Yeah,
Sensible? No.
you are dropping out again, George.
Sounds like your internet
All right.
connection.
Well, here. I'm going to try again.
You try again. Okay. Yeah, Rumpus. What I was saying is, let's. You got your posts of any height. I mean, they could be 20 foot high, but about 15 foot high, you fasten your first rail. That's your reference. That's what you make level, and then from there on, you're trying to use a level all the time, and then whatever it was, 64 inches below that, you start your forced line, which you start off. It made me laugh actually when Brian said we try and make that as parallel as we can. It has to be absolutely parallel to that first rail. If not, if you're a millimetre out, then straight away you screwed up the end reference, assuming you could get everything straight.
You're not just screwed if it's a millimetre, you're screwed if it's 700 nanometers.
Yeah, but I think that's for each connection.
Yeah. So it's not the point you just said.
Would that be the same? No, I'm talking about the actual. Sorry, if you're looking on the can you see me on the screen in Discord?
Okay, sorry, no, I haven't been looking.
If you just,
sorry, no, I'll just give me. Sorry,
that's all right. Yeah. If you just click on the live room, you should see me. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not doing that one. Oh, there you go. Sorry, yeah, got you now.
Yeah. So what we say? Yeah, if your first forced line it isn't absolutely level, if it's like this or this, you're going to push it up into the sky or into the ground anyway. That has to be perfectly level, doesn't it?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's just your starting thing has got to be. That's something you could probably do without. That's something you could probably. I mean, that's just like getting a very good plumb line. That's something you could probably. That would be mechanically possible, I think, to get very accurate.
Yeah, it would have to be. I mean, but it made me laugh that he said just as parallel as possible to the line above. Because if it's not, I mean, I would have thought, to be honest, that would be, if you got one, then getting the other one parallel would be comparatively easy, just by using the same size spacers in between, or the same spacer. Although then there's the accuracy of the spacer.
Exactly, that's the problem. The much more serious problem is the cumulative error of trying to join two things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the initial one is actually something you can do. I think potentially very accurately. But then 1,000 odd joints that have to be, each joint has to be, and they can't sag, they have to be fully supported, and they have to be butted up to one another with an accuracy of 100 atoms. Absolutely no way, matey. And you can't do it. And the point is that you can't do it by trying to do. I mean, obviously you say you've got a cumulative error. How would you remove cumulative errors? You try and say I go to the other end and then I draw a straight line, or something straight, because he's trying to avoid that because you can't use lasers because of refraction unless you've got a vacuum tube that's as long as that. I mean, if that was the case, if you could just get a nice long vacuum, and in fact I suggested this to George when he was making some suggestions how you could improve this, he suggested a pipe. But unfortunately, even if you put a laser through a pipe, you still got the effects of refraction.
Yes,
so,
and
but
it's
what
worse
you need
than you
is
think.
a vacuum pipe. Now, if you could have a vacuum tube that was that long, 2 miles or whatever, then you could shine a laser down it, and then that would be a straight line. Ignoring any gravitational, general relativity, bending of light effects. But fortunately, that's sufficiently small we can ignore them. So if you're prepared to build a vacuum tube that long and shining a laser down it, then you don't have the cumulative error. Well, actually, then you don't need to bother with the whole experiment at all. You just need to wiggle your vacuum tube up and down until you can see one end of the laser to the other. Then, as you were saying about getting the angle right at the start, so you just need to make sure your lasers, and of course you've got to worry about, actually there's another issue, of course, divergence.
Yeah, with the laser, yes.
Yeah, that's another.
I mean, when it comes down to it, you may as well go along and look at LIGO.
Yes.
But actually, you saying
that used a GPS.
I mean, sorry, who was it? Someone just said in the chat. Oh, Turtle Moves says, how would they fasten the beams to the posts? Exactly, that's a problem we were just discussing. But Rumpus, towing tanks. You heard about them? I've used them in it was Flo Rider who suggested it. You know, the towing tanks for testing models of ships.
Oh yeah.
And the gantries that tow the model along go on rails.
Excellent video, by the way. I got a compliment you on that.
Thank you.
Video.
And the rail has got to be the same distance above the surface of the water, which is curved. Now, I was reading up about one of them recently, and those rails are basically solid rails on adjustable mounts. So they have have to adjust them. They can't use a
can bend them.
telescope.
The key point is they bend them
Exactly.
by adjusting them.
Yes, yes.
So they bend. So the point is these things are bendy.
Yeah, so
going back to the rail, you've got to support them in the right thing. So effectively, you're trying to get the rail. You can't use the rail to define the horizontal. You have to use the supports to do it. So you've got another problem besides this forced line thing of actually having the thing that supports them in a straight line. Then you're back to another problem.
Well, with that towing tank, I think it was 150 metres long. You couldn't even use a laser because it's not accurate enough, and you get too much refraction over that distance. It had to be that accurate, and they couldn't use a telescope. It had to be done by one person, making adjustments by eye, and it took I forget if it was 2 or 6 weeks it took them. It's 150 metre rail times 2.
Yeah,
at least 2 weeks. Let's call it, go for the lower 2 weeks to set up 150 metres. So how are you going to do that on 2 mile stretch? And as you said, and that's with a lot of supports, like on a railway line, every couple of feet along, not every 10 feet.
I've forgotten your video. How did they position those things?
I can't.
How did they just?
What, to make sure that the curve was right and so on?
Yes.
I don't know all the technical details. What I do know is it couldn't. You couldn't even have me doing it one day and you doing it the next, because our eyesight is different. So it had to be the same guy. So he would make the same judgment of where everything is.
I can't remember. I forgot your video.
There was
They did it
optics.
optically.
There was optics involved, but I'll be honest, I didn't go into all the details. I just recall that. I did mention that they couldn't do it by laser because that wasn't accurate enough. So yeah, if you're
probably the laser you can't use because of the divergence problem. So
and refraction. That they actually specifically said refraction, and that's over 150 meters. That's all.
Well, the trouble is you'd have the same refraction issue if you were using an auto level or something. I'm a little bit confused now how you would use it or do it optically, because this is the same problem that, say, George was suggesting with the pipe. And I was then saying, no, you can't use that because of refraction. Now I'm suddenly getting all confused as to how you would do it optically to the accuracy that's required. I'm now confused.
It was. I think.
Watch your video again.
well, as I said, I didn't go into all the details of that. I think it was. It may have been Southampton University. So you could, if you have a look at towing tanks and Southampton, I'm sure it will get you to the page where they explain where they. Oh, I know, says Wally. Oh, and he's just done the link. Yeah, there's a link in the chat to it. Rumpus. Yeah, because where's Wally dropped that to me? Was it today, Wally, or yesterday? And I was already aware because it's what I used in my video. But as I said, I didn't go into the aspects of exactly how they went into all the technicalities of doing the levelling. But yeah, it shows that steel over that length is bendy.
Yeah.
Hello, George. You back?
Yes, is my audio?
It's a bit better. Let's go with it. Let's try with it. See how we get on.
You do sound as though you're the other end of one of these tubes that are 2 miles long, George, but at least you're not breaking up. Come in, George.
Hello.
You've gone. We can't. You've gone, George. Oh, there you are. No, we got one George, and that was it. Oh, we got a second
Yeah, not sure what's... George, do you want to go... If I pop you into the live waiting room, let's see if you can get things going with Colon. He's a bit of a whiz with this sort of thing, okay? And then we'll pull you back in a minute. So I'll pop you back over there. Colon, if you could have a chat with George and see if you can get him working, that would be fantastic. And then let me know when he is, and I'll pull him back in again. That's a shame, isn't it? It always seems to happen at just at important times, Rumpus.
Yeah, George's having a bit of a problem with his audio issues recently. But yes, that's a very good point. I hadn't realised. Yes, your recent video about the tank and having to get the bend in it just right is exactly reflecting the argument that had just occurred to me that was separate from the one that I talked about 2 or 3 years ago. Exactly, the fact that metal bends, and it's the supports that have to be in the right place. So the actual rails are almost irrelevant. You have to have the supports in the right place, which means, and you can't use the rails to determine that. You have to do it another way. And I'm now going to have to read that Where's Wally thing about how he did that. So thanks for that, Wally, on how they did it optically without allowing for refraction.
Yeah, I mean, it was an overall article, so it's not a highly technical article, but I'm sure it mentioned something about what they did. Just a general. We used so and so's, for instance. If it was auto
right.
levels.
So here, right. So in fact, they used the water. Right. So here's Where's Wally just put a comment in here. What they did is actually use needles on the
That was-
water surface.
So just
So
breaking
they're actually
through.
using the water to do a level and not horizontal, because of course what they wanted was a level. And so of
Exact-
course you can't use that
You-
technique.
Yeah. But Rumpus, you can't use a word like that. What if Bev Try-Thinking heard you? Level's not curved, is it? Apparently.
I wonder. I mean, that guy. I don't know if it's off subtopic. The fact that guy claims to know something about surveying and he hasn't read possibly chapter number 2 in most engineering.
He's a
surveying
hobby.
books
He's a
would tell
hobby.
you-
He's not a surveyor. He's a hobby surveyor.
Indeed, but he claims to know about surveying.
Well, the thing is,
And
he's one page ahead of maybe not you, but he's one page ahead of most of us, because most of us haven't used surveying equipment. Most
You
of us
don't need to read.
no, but
well,
most of
I
us
think
wouldn't know
you
about things
understand-
like the whatever it is, the zenith angle thing being greater
Yeah,
than
but you know the difference between horizontal and level, and you
Yes.
understand the concepts.
Yes.
He doesn't understand the concepts, and he doesn't. The key thing he doesn't understand is that every point on the Earth's surface has a different horizontal, just like on a circle. If you drew tangents at all points on the circle, they'd all be different, and he cannot cope with that concept. And he thinks that going up the screen is vertical. So he's in several times in diagrams that I've drawn of horizontals on the Earth. He said, "Well, you know, that's not up the screen, is it?" No, it's not up the screen, because down and up are defined by going towards and away from the centre of the Earth. So yes, I think you are already several orders of magnitude in greater understanding than he is, because he doesn't even understand the model
I
he's trying
think-
to invalidate.
I think, though, Rumpus, there genuinely are a number of people, and quite a large number of people, who literally cannot visualise in 3D. And so
Yeah.
the arguments about things like that, it's literally straight over their head. It's not a case of whether they're clever or not. They cannot grasp it. It's
Well,
it's
I'd
like
make that, I'd say that was being not clever. I'm afraid if you can't do that,
Yeah.
I would argue that's
well,
not
well,
clever.
visualizing in 3D, some people do find harder than others. But it's
Not
like the
clever
idiots
people.
talking about, well, those rivers, they're running to the north, so they're running uphill. Oh, come on, how dumb are you?
Well, they are flat earthers.
Yeah. Oh, we got
That's-
multi-tom-tom
you
in the
want-
chat.
I mean, if you wanted to test someone's IQ, sod an IQ test simply, and if they knew they were a flat earther, you could say, well, immediately, you know, they've got to be below average, I'm afraid, because I mean, just the sunsets and just boats dropping over the horizon, etc. You know, just with 3 or 4 things, the angle to polar is changing, just 3 or 4 facts and you're away.
But do you
but-
remember not Nathan Oakley's Sleeping Warrior's explanation about sunrises and sunsets and why the sky's red in the evening and bluish in the morning?
I missed that one. Go ahead.
No?
Enlighten me.
Well, what happens when you approach the speed of light? Redshift and blue
I get-
shift. That's what he was saying. He actually said it's redshift and blue shift in the morning.
Right.
Oh, dear.
And since when has he been doing that then? Because I think
Oh, that-
Einstein would have been very interested to have known him
Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah, that was quite a few months ago. But don't. Well, now he's got his channel nuked, doesn't he? But
Yeah,
but
he's got a new one.
Yes.
Guess its name is Sleeping Warrior.
but many of us decided not to deal with him, not to actually give him the satisfaction of responses, since he did those disgusting messages to conspiracy cats.
In fact, I completely agree with you. I was actually in contact with him on Skype. He regularly asks me questions about the technical side of this, that, and the other. And then he made a comment about conspiracy cats, and you highlighted it in a video. And I said to him, I just don't want to have anything to do with you.
No.
If you're making these sorts of accusations, I'm sorry. I don't care
Yeah.
how bloody. I don't care how
Yeah.
bloody whatever. I just don't care anymore. You wanker. You do not go around accusing people of those things ever, unless you've got an absolutely cast iron case and you go to the police about it.
Absolutely.
You bastard.
Yeah. I mean, it shows he's lost. I mean, talk about ad hominem.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It's
disgusting.
yeah. So much as in many ways I'd like to keep bashing him and showing him up for his stupidity, I actually did it once, and then Hugh Jarvis said, "I thought we weren't doing him." Oh crumbs, I forgot. It's just so stupid. I did a response video without thinking, but I've been very hot on it. I haven't touched him. I haven't touched any of his stuff since.
Not that I'm aware of what he gets up to nowadays.
I don't even check his
but
channel.
I don't think he's repeated it. So I don't know whether or not you could argue that after a year of not repeating the accusations, he may have learned his lesson. Perhaps he thought it was quite clever to be super aggressively horrible to conspiracy cats. Perhaps he hasn't. If he doesn't done it for 6 months or a year, I don't know whether you regard that as his penance or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't even thought about it because, like I said, I haven't even looked at his channel since. not at all.
Yeah.
But
I think. Sorry, just wanted to emphasise that how good that was that you've mentioned that. I'd forgotten about the flow tank and the just in case people have missed that. How I think that was a very important point that Wally's produced. That what they were trying to do, of course, because almost all surveyors are interested in level. That is the same effectively conceptually. I know this is not technically how the distance above the your elevation is relative to the WGS84 ellipsoid, but conceptually it's the distance from the Earth, which means that you almost surveyors basically, if you want to do a swimming pool or something, or you don't want things rolling around. You want them to be so they've got the same equipotential. So all the surfaces that surveyors are interested, unless they're doing LIGO, are all curved to follow a level. And so, just like with this boat thing that you've raised, and I'd forgotten about its relevance to the force the line thing, they were doing, as you're saying, Wally was saying, they used a needle, so they used the water. They used the water as a level measure, and then optically it's over only a very short distance to the rail. So what they obviously did then was they got something at each point along the tank. They then put a position thing and then looked, just a few feet to the left or whatever to then position the rail so far above it. And obviously they could measure very accurately how far that was above the water.
And as I said, it was the same guy, so he would be making the same. You know, is if you draw a line on a piece of wood and then you're going to cut it, you know exactly how you position that saw, and the next person might position it to the other side of the line. That sort of thing. It's one guy, so he would do it the same way. He would be consistent throughout.
I would hope they would use instruments that would minimise that.
But when it still come to it, it had to be that final bit had to be visually. So it's the same guy making the same alignment every time.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic point you made.
And I think from memory, the sagittar of that curve was 1.6 millimeter, something like that.
Oh, right, over 150 millimeters.
150 meters, yeah.
Let me just check that.
That was from. It should be in that link. It should be in that link.
Well, I can work it out. Let me just give me a moment.
Oh, all right. You work it out without cheating.
It works over 150 meters.
Yeah, and. Wally, could you?
I think it's much less than that, I'm afraid. I think the bulge, according to my calculations here, in meters, you said it was. I think it was 1.6 millimeter. I think that's from memory. That is from memory. No, according to me, it's one. Oh, so how much did you say it was? No, you said it was 1.5 millimeters.
1.6, I think.
Yeah, I've got it down here as 0.4 of a millimeter actually. So I've got there's a factor of 3 difference here for some reason. You're not getting confused with the drop, are you? You said the sagittar.
I'm pretty sure it was a sagittar. And there was another tow tank. I forget where it is. It's about 300 odd meters long, and that is, I believe, about 3.2 millimeters, something like that.
That's probably at Ted. I think they've got one at Teddington. I think that might be like do that.
I haven't got the link. Can someone just? Where's Wally? If you're still here, or if someone can scroll back because I can't see it, have a look in that link because I'm pretty sure it says what the sagittar. Oh, there it is. Let's have a look. Let's call it up. But then I suppose this is not the technical thing. It's an article. But it did say somewhere.
And Wally's just posted how they used 2 needles until they broke the surface tension.
Yes.
Gosh, you see, even that's quite tricky because when you decide you've broken the surface tension of the water, that could be where it's a bit
but I guess
so there you're right. That could be the bit where you had to have the same person because you've got a different opinion.
Exactly.
About what constitutes breaking the surface tension of the water.
Exactly. And it says here the top face of the rail had to be level to within plus or minus 0.1 millimeter. So. That's the accuracy they needed.
So where's Wally's agreeing with me? There, he's got 0.6 millimeters as the sagittar for that.
Is that what it says in there? Is that just my poor memory? I thought.
Where's Wally's agreeing with me?
Oh yes. Sagittar for east-west. A tank of 138 meters is 0.6 meters. 0.6 millimeters.
A bit less than that actually. I think it's 0.4, but nonetheless, it's yes. So it's
Yeah. So that was my poor memory. That's all.
Never mind, you were close enough. You had this sort of quality.
Well, I was only a millimetre out. That's not bad.
Only a factor of 3 out. Don't worry. So yes, so there's telling you what you're dealing with. This flipping curvy Earth is incredibly flat, but that's amazing to get that within. They wanted to get it within 0.6 millimeters. That's quite.
Impressive. Oh, Multi Tom says just one proof C could shut down flat Earth. All right, and Tom, 2 points of stellar rotation in the night sky. Good night. Oh, and we have in the chat, Rumpus, we have Mr. Flow Rider. It was Flow Rider who originally submitted one of those 1 minute debunk videos to my channel when I did a 1 minute debunk show, and used toe tanks. So credit for this, bringing it to the Flat Earth Globe Earth debate, goes to Flo Rider.
Well done, Flo Rider. Brilliant stuff. Yeah.
Because he brought it, and I said I'm stealing that, and I actually used it before the 1 minute debunk came out, and I've used it again, and now Wes Wally's picked up and is talking about it as well. But it's Flo Rider.
The amazing thing is how it's relevant to this. It's become relevant again to this forced alarm, because as a highlight, as I was thinking, as I say, suddenly realised it's the supports you've got to get right. The actual beams themselves are irrelevant because they're going to bend. They need the support of the posts to put them in the right position, because if you don't have any support, they're going to bend. So that's useless.
Yep. And
so
I
the
think
support account, which is exactly what this rail is all about.
I think we got George in here working. Let's give it a try. Hello, George.
Is this working better now? Or not?
That is better. Let me turn you up a bit because you're a bit quiet. Try again.
All right.
You're still suffering from tube syndrome.
It's, I have some disagreements with Rumpus regarding the use of the tubes. We never did get to discuss it earlier today.
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's something either for another day or maybe a bit later on. But George, first of all,
the fundamental problem of using the laser than trying to shoot it down the whole tube is because of the divergence of the laser. By the time you get out to a mile, most lasers are 1 millirad divergence, and that means your beam spot size is going to be 5 feet in diameter at each mile.
Couldn't you collimate it in some way, George? Putting something in a hole halfway down the tube or something?
No, not to that degree that you need. Say you have a 4-inch diameter tube.
Yeah.
You're going to have to collimate it to better than 100 to 1, and you just can't do that. I mean, best I've ever seen for collimators is maybe a 25x.
Right, well, but couldn't you put an obstruction somewhere down the tube that would actually, where you could somehow add some other means of getting that to be straight?
The way I have it envisioned to do this is you only shoot, say you have tube sections of 20 feet. So I would do 3 at a time using a laser, because in 60 feet, the laser isn't going to deviate much. It's about 3/4 of an inch. So you can easily center it in, say, a 4-inch tube. And what you do is you shoot 3 tubes at a time, and you don't have refraction problems doing that. So the refraction issue is a non-issue anymore. So you take your first 3 tubes, you center them with the laser, and that's easy to do. You could put like a screen on the end of the 3rd one and see exactly where the spot is and center it, and move your tube around so it's in the center of the spot, or the spot is in the center of the tube. And then you move the laser ahead 1 tube, so you're always having the laser go through 2 tubes, and then you add your 3rd tube, and you do the same thing. By keeping the laser in the first 2 tubes centered, now you can get the 3rd tube centered. You keep leapfrogging it that way, so that you always have 2 tubes in which you're aligning the laser, so that you don't have this cumulative error problem. It turns out more to be a random error than anything that's going to add up and kill you at the end.
Can I jump in quickly and first of all say, George, hello, and welcome, and thank you very much for that video of yours. I did. It should have come up. Put a card link to that video on your channel. As I said, I'm not a mathematician, so a lot of I knew what you were getting at, and I must admit, I thought this has got to be damn accurate. But when you came up with that and finally said, oh yeah, that's less than the wavelength of green light. What the hell? That is stunning, absolutely stunning, and it just shows the level of accuracy they would need. They don't get it.
I mean, it's ridiculously insane to try to do this mechanically.
Yeah.
You're going to have to come up with some sort of a scheme to align, and the best way to do it is using a very accurate surveyor's GPS. You can, Jesse Kloslowski was here a few years ago with Soundly, and we did some tests out on the frozen lake at the end of March 2 years ago. And Jesse brought his surveying GPS, and I mean that thing is amazing. You can get things once you set up your base station and get it aligned with all with the satellites and get your control points set up. You can set up verticals within a few millimeters.
Yeah,
So
the
ju-
trouble,
ju-
of course,
ju-
That's aligning things.
just going back to your calculations, George, was it 76.6 nanometers?
no, I think it's 760,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
No, 766 angstroms, wasn't it? But
No. Oh, is it 76 nanometers?
76 nanometers, I think, wasn't it?
the green
Oh, you're
light.
right. Actually, it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. It was.
yeah, because I've just had a look at Hubble Space Telescope mirror was polished to an accuracy of 10 nanometers, 1/65th of the wavelength of red light. So obviously it'd be great if they could be that accurate, but they don't need to be quite that accurate. But you're talking about those sort of levels of accuracy. You can't get a wood plane and shave it. Oh yeah, that's the job's a good one. That won't work.
No,
Yeah,
no.
you need millions.
Visible light is 1 octave. It basically goes from blue at about 350 nanometers to red at 700 nanometers. And an angstrom is 10 to the minus 10th meters, or a tenth of a nanometer. So, and an angstrom is about the diameter of of a hydrogen atom. So, you're looking at wavelength of light, say in the green, 532 nanometers. That's about 5,000 atoms. 5,300 atoms. So if you're looking at about 70 some nanometers, you're talking about around 700 hydrogen atoms stacked end to end.
And someone just commented on the fact in the chat about the Hubble. It took them a long time. Was it months or even years to grind the mirror to that sort of level? Yeah. So you're talking about doing that for 1,000. Okay, each one's smaller, but getting that accuracy on 1,058 or whatever it was connections.
Yeah, and you can't do some you can't do some trick like saying I'll make one good one and then just reuse it, because you have to. It's the actual fitting of it. Each position is the thing you've got to do to that accuracy, and you just got the same problems. And then George, I don't know if you heard, George, I was pointing out this other problem we hadn't discussed really. If you don't want the rails to bend, then you actually need to position the things that they're resting on to their accuracy, and you can't use the rails as the means to determine that. So you've got a second problem. And then we were just talking about the flow thing, I don't know if you heard, which is a way of independently, that's only with the flow tank using the level of the water, but that gives you level, not straight. So there's another order of magnitude problem with this.
There's way too many mechanical problems to pull this off realistically.
Yeah, it's somewhere between Bob Hope and No Hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the people are genuine. I mean, they think Brian Mullen, obviously
Yes.
a complete moron.
Yeah, I think
believed it, and the other guys I think really believe it, but they're just too stupid to realise how stupid they are.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
I made it clear at the start of the video that I don't think Brian has done anything wrong. I think you're right. He's mistaken, but genuinely mistaken, and you can't fault someone for that. But obviously they need to learn from that. But my concern is people like Eric DeBay, Dell, and so on. Let's face it, they're not the brightest kids on the block, and they're leading thousands of people this way. And someone, as we know, stumped up £500 for this. That money's wasted. Even if they attempt to do the experiment, it's not going to work. Not because the Earth's flat, not because the Earth's curved, but because they can't build the thing to the accuracy required.
Yeah, well, the biggest issue on this thing and using rails, like if you want to use metal rails, is you can surface grind to within microns. Very, very high-end machine shops use surface grinders where you have a very, very fine pumice wheel and you grind under a fluid like water or some sort of an oil. You can get a very, very smooth surface that way. That's fine, but how do you ensure that flat surface is precisely at a right angle
Yeah.
to the axis of the rail. That's another issue, and that's
Yeah.
almost
And
impossible to
and
deal with.
if you're putting two of those connectors together, it would only require a speck of grit in between, and you stuffed it, haven't you?
That's more that order of magnitude's
Yeah,
too big.
yeah.
Expect a grip be
And
completely
and
out of order.
and I mean, which is the sort of thing that happened with regard to the Hubble telescope. No, that made it in effect blind. But someone, as I said earlier on, I'm not sure if it was Brian or whoever, but they're saying we want this to be a permanent monument. We'd have to galvanise it. So you've got your nicely smooth finish, George. You made sure it's 90 degrees, and then you galvanise it, and you've totally screwed it up.
Well,
There is one
look,
thing I was just looking at a
one of the
video about the rectilineator. Sorry, George, I've got an important point. The rectilineator, where they used what's called some special paper of a special thickness, and they had 3 points on the thing that they were trying to prove that the Earth is convex, as opposed to being the concave shape. And this video I've just watched, they were actually they had 3 points in each one of the joins, and they put some little piece of paper between them of a particular thickness or some special sort of paper, and then claimed that would justify how accurate it was. But even that's still not going to be, atoms accurate, or even hundreds of atoms accurate.
well, look at all of this is unnecessary. Back then, they didn't have GPS. Like I was trying to get to you with Jesse Kozlowski and his surveying GPS system.
Yeah, but they won't accept that, George.
Purpose, please. You pay about $20,000-$30,000 for one of these systems, and you can accurately position elevations to within millimeters. So, say you want to go 2 miles. In 2 miles, the Earth drop is 8 inches times 2 squared for 32 inches. Okay. Now, you could very easily, in an afternoon, set up a GPS system to accurately align sections to get out to 2 miles if all you're trying to do is, say, get within a couple inches. You can imagine these sections waving up and down, plus or minus 2 inches because of the accuracy. Now, if you want better accuracy, say, to get to within millimeters, then you're probably going to have to spend a couple days because it takes a lot more time for the GPS system to acquire satellites, do all the calculations. It just takes a lot longer to get it to read out to within millimeters to give you that. But if all you're looking for, say plus minus 2 inches is fine for determining a drop of 32 inches. You don't have to get to within millimeters if you want to have a visual indication. Having a line that just kind of waves plus minus 2 inches, where at the end you're comparing that to a 32-inch drop, that's fine. You could probably do that in an afternoon with one of these GPS systems to set the heights of each section, but you could get it a lot more precise, like I say, in millimeters if you spend a few days doing it.
George, the whole point is they don't want to use GPS. And if you say you're going to position these posts, hold on. Yeah, if you want to position these posts with a GPS, you don't need the rails. You could just go and position the GPS 2 miles away at the relevant height, and you could dispense with the whole rails completely. They don't want to use GPS. That's the whole point of this.
They want a monument stays there for all eternity. So okay, knock yourself out, build this monument, whatever you want. But if you don't want to use GPS, then I'm afraid you're screwed.
They are. They are.
Yeah, and the whole point is they wanted to find a mechanical, easily appreciated way of proving that the Earth is level flat. And using GPS, which is the global positioning system, is not going to fit that requirements.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
It is. Oh, I mean, as I said, just with my rough and ready thing, if each of those 10-foot beams was a millimetre out, too high, too low, from one end to the other, then cumulatively that's greater than their 32-inch target. It's 41.8 from memory. So the error margin made that a joke. So they're going to have to be very, very accurate, even to get a rough indication.
Yeah, it's getting a straight thing that is several miles long to with an accuracy of 8 inches of being straight is something we've actually been discussing on another hangout on Brandon's, how you would do that. And it's incredible. And you don't want to use GPS, and you can't use lasers, as George was saying about the divergence is an issue as well. It's actually incredibly difficult to draw something that's straight. You cannot make a 2-mile rod that's 2 kilometers long that's straight. You've got nothing to measure it against, and you want to use lasers again or GPS. It's a very difficult thing to do. Impossible, in fact.
Certainly for some ordinary Joe in Glasgow or somewhere, and a few of his mates, and 100,000 quid chucked from strangers around the world. It would be a massive challenge for engineers, let alone ordinary people.
If you ask Siemens or BAE to do this, they wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, I mean, the ultimate conclusion to all this is they are going to prove that the Earth is flat. I mean, that's inevitable because they are incompetent in figuring out how to falsify their test. I mean, none of the flat earthers ever tried to falsify anything.
Can I just read out a super chat from Truth Nerds for €2? Thank you. They screwed up Hubble. It had to be fixed in orbit. Absolutely, they had to, in effect, give it another lens, didn't they?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. They had to give it glasses.
Glasses, yes.
I have never found in any of these discussions over the past 3-4 years of what I would call a competent flat earther. I mean, you look at FE Core and the jokers in there, Bob Noble, Kavanaugh, and all that. None of them are engineers. They claim to be engineers. What Kavanaugh is it? I think maybe a sound engineer for a rock group. I mean, he's not a real engineer. None of these guys are degreed.
And let's not
models that are stepping over their feet like the Keystone Cops.
And let's not forget, they made a mistake about converting radians to degrees. They got them mixed up in their FE Core stuff.
Don't ask Nathan Oakley about converting meters to kilometres.
Exactly, and then you've got someone like Riley who tried to do the... when they tried to do the Isle of Man stuff, Riley at one point wanted to try and measure the incline, the length of a slope. And I went through all the things they could possibly, in my head, before they went and did. I thought, what could they get wrong about this? And they always find a way of doing something more stupid than you can possibly imagine. And Riley put a post up to try and measure that, and with Ranty, of course, the other moron, to put a string between the top and the bottom of this thing, and then he pulled the post back to tension the line. They took a photograph which was right angles to the post they'd pulled back. So Riley pulled a post back, and he pulled it back about 20 or 30 degrees, and then they took a photograph of that, and then said that was the angle. They took that angle, which was they put the post, they put it as the 90-degree up thing, and then when you compared it with the horizon, you could see it pulled it back by about 20 degrees more than vertical. And then they said, based on that, using that trigonometry as the angle, they then said that the length of this bank was such and such, which was out by about a factor about 30 or 40%, because they couldn't even get a post to be vertical. And I hadn't even considered and every single time with a flatty, you will never ever pin them down to doing something. They will always find something incredible. I mean, the experiment with Riley and his egg, and any of the ones that you see, they always find things that you just do not imagine that any sensible human being would do as stupid. So if they did do this experiment, there's so many errors in it. They'd do something like FE Core did and mix up radians or degrees or something, or centimeters and millimeters, and they'd end up with some answer. When you've got a random result, you can do anything with it. And so they're not going to be constrained by any mechanical constraints. They're guaranteed they'll find some way of manipulating the numbers to end up with what they want.
Well, the thing is, as I said in a reply to you, George, I mean, there's so many other ways you could go about proving or disproving globe Earth. A simple one, that'll be a lot cheaper, 100,000, is pay for a circumnavigation of Antarctica. Job done.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I've always been telling them is, why don't you fly around the perimeter of Antarctica and see what the distance is. And for this so-called flat Earth model where it holds the oceans in by having this seawall all around the perimeter of the flat Earth, it comes out, it has to be, more than 70,000 miles long.
What they also seem to have failed to have realised is it'd be no good just being a seawall. It would have to be ice on, or it would have to have land all the way around. Otherwise, with floating ice, the sea would sort of drift underneath it, leak out. And I've just had another super chat from Double Wide for $5 US. Thank you, Double Wide. This will be on the show. What on earth? One day. Is that a show? Is that a channel? I don't know. What on earth? But
what causes me though? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but I do want to thank both of you coming in today. I had hoped that Flatty McFlatty, the one who's running this fundraiser, would come in. I sent him an email. He's not replied. And Dell from Beyond the Imaginary Curve, whatever he's called, he came in shouting off the odds before the live premiere. And I did reply to him, say, come on in, talk to us about it. Because we could talk to him. But no, he was a keyboard warrior and he's run away. So I'm really glad to have you guys in here.
Someone's just made a comment that I should know that Ranty has turned from the dark side. I'm afraid he's just as stupid as he ever was. He still doesn't believe he still now believes that the bits of the Earth are flat, like a sort of disco ball. He still rejects refraction. He denies looming. He's still into his conspiracy theories, or now he says he's now not going to want to talk about them. He's just the same person. He's the same person who abused George, but got him to make numerous presentations on his channel, and then the next day would then do a hit piece about George after telling him how wonderful he was. I'm afraid this guy is not terribly pleasant character, I'm afraid, and he's just as stupid as he ever was. It's just that he's been sorry, George, I can't hear you very well. He's just as stupid as he ever was, I'm afraid, and just become a glober. He's a stupid glober now, as opposed to being a stupid fatty guy.
What I would say, I mean, I've never actually spoken to the guy, but what I would say in his defence is that with regard to the Blackpool Swan, he's had the guts to stand and say, I was wrong, it is this. And he's stepped away from all those people. He's got an awful lot of enemies. I don't know about how he's treated George or anyone else. I really don't. And the other thing I'd say, just on a personal note, is back before Christmas, when my mum was dying, he super chatted £15. I think he said, get yourself a bottle of wine to toast your mum, which I thought was very nice of him. But I don't know him, so I can't really comment either way. And to be honest, he's not here to defend himself either, Rumpus, so perhaps we can steer away from that.
Yeah, I won't go anywhere further.
Okay, thanks, mate.
He's got a record that's visible to anybody who watches this channel and seen him treat George and things.
You know, for all the flatties out there, one thing regarding Antarctica that I'd like them to think about, is in this flat Earth model, they're all claiming that there's this ice wall that surrounds the edge of the Earth. Well, not all of Antarctica has this glacier that has a sheer cliff. It's only over a small portion of the perimeter of Antarctica. A lot of Antarctica, there's places where there are actually plants on land. And if you go around the whole perimeter of Antarctica, only a very small portion has these sheer cliffs of ice that calve off.
I mean, those are the ice shelves, aren't they? They're, as you said, they're not all the way round. It depends. I mean, I've shown photos. I made some comment on an earlier video about it and showed photos of exactly what you're talking about, like shingle beaches and so on.
Yeah, so that right there should be raising a lot of red flags.
Oh, Double Wise just super chatted again as well, $5, saying they find oddities with satellites. I think he's talking about flat earthers. Oddities with satellites and try to find out what it is. A comment here I wanted to, on what Rumpus was talking about Oakley not being able to convert meters to kilometers. You have to love their logic. If I remember right, Oakley was struggling with this. Are you telling me? Are you telling me you divide something by 1,000 to make it bigger? To divide a meter.
That was the phrase, yeah.
His logic was to go from meters to kilometers. Kilometers is a larger number, so you have to multiply meters by 1,000 to get to kilometers, because kilometers is a larger number.
It was sweet, wasn't it? Okay, well, George, we're going to have to give you the same test that we give flat earthers, okay? All right, I know that you can do a bit of maths, so you should be okay, right? If you've got a triangle, sides 1, 1, 1, what are the angles?
60.
Yay! There we go.
Yeah, I mean that
Team George.
A good point about
So
that
it's called
southern.
the equilateral.
Yes. Well,
The
he
good point
even
about-
said that, didn't he? He said 111.
Yeah.
So that's an equilateral triangle, isn't it? I'll have to get my triangle calculator.
They always have to get a calculator out. It's just incredible, and an online calculator to do everything. But yeah, this thing about recently about the Google Earth being a flat Earth model. Well, Google Earth says, as George was saying about in the southern hemisphere, the distance between Santiago and Chile and Australia says a particular value, and the flat Earth says it's a very different value. And we know that aeroplanes can travel between the two, and given the fact they can't fly at 1,500 miles an hour, that must be the distance given in global Earth, which is a globe. I mean, they claim that the Google Earth, that when it goes outwards, when you're looking at it, it's flat locally, and then it becomes a globe just for representation purposes. But the distance between Santiago and Australia is given as you can clearly see on the spherical thing. You can see is a spherical distance, a distance on a sphere, and is not compatible with the flight time. And the flat Earth version of that is not compatible with those flight times. So George says that just one fact alone should be enough to prove to any flat earther that's bothered to even think about it that the Earth is indeed a sphere, and the Google Earth is a spherical model.
Well, quite recently, Dr. Phil Bell, he's been asking the flat earthers, say, what's the distance between, say, two lines of longitude, say, separated 15 degrees at the equator versus down in the southern hemisphere or closer to the North Pole in the northern hemisphere. And I happen to find two cities that do that. And you can find that in Malaysia, there's two cities at around, I think it was 70 degrees east latitude or east longitude that are right on the equator that were somewhere. It ends up being about 1,000 miles apart, something like that. And then you can go up to about 75 degrees north latitude in Russia, in Siberia, and there's two cities, and they're about shorter apart, distance by about 60% of what you find on the equator. Of course, Vladdy never answers that. They think that all altitude should be parallel, and distances between them, regardless of where you are with your latitude, should be the same distance. And there's no critical thinking in this group.
No.
I'm also hoping that to organise a simultaneous live broadcast observation of the southern polar sky. I've got several people in Australia and New Zealand, and hopefully one in South Africa. The Professor Bill, new one exam guy, as well as him, to do a simultaneous observation of the southern sky, and they'll all be pointing and demonstrating the same. They're all looking at the same sky and all pointing south, which apparently for Riley was a decider for him, that it would cause him to become a glober if I could prove this. So potentially I could do. I think Katz did his work on Branty to make him convert, and hopefully possibly with this a southern sky observation, we might be able to do the same to Riley. And
I think.
Sure, Riley's going to concede and convert. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Your skepticism is well justified, George, even because we can't rely on what he says to be what he will do, of course.
Yeah.
But then,
But
I mean, Bob Nadell, I mean, he measured the damn rotation of the Earth, and then he refused to accept it. And then Jeranism, right? He did this excellent experiment. He took photos of both transit of the sun and transit of the moon by the ISS. So he'd found out where it should be, when it should be. He set up the equipment correctly, and he got some beautiful footage. So he said, yeah, there's something there, but it's still not a space station. I mean, that sort of level of denial. I mean, no one else was involved. He did it himself, and he still denied it.
Did he get pictures of the ISS then?
Yes, beautiful pictures.
Did he now?
Yeah, transiting. He'd done the sun, but was it the sun? I'm not sure which way round. He'd done one, and I saw him do the other. And somewhere in my back catalogue, I've got a video about it. But yeah, he actually did it, and then said, "But that can't be man-made, and it's not the ISS. It's still that's not real." Well, what are you talking about? They told you exactly where it would be, down to the second.
And you could see its shape when it's laid up against the moon.
Yeah.
Well, it's worse than that, Mr. Sensible. Years ago, Wolfie 6020 offered a free trip to Jeranism and
Yeah.
his wife to go down to Australia, and he was going to show them things. Now, what person in his right mind would refuse a free trip to Australia?
Well, I'll tell you what, George, I didn't, because he made that offer to me, and I was wowed, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. Unfortunately, and it's no blame on him, when he made that offer to Jeranism, and I think he made an offer to others, it was, flights, living expenses and everything. I'm not or certainly wasn't in a position to be able to afford something like that. He wasn't offering exactly the same, and I wasn't in a position to take him up on it, because I still would have loved to have gone and all the things he was offering to do. So massive thanks to Wolfie. But Jeranism was an idiot not to take him up on that.
Yeah. It'd be great to go around with an aeroplane with Wolfie and see all that navigation system.
I know, it's stunning, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, great. Well, actually, he's one of the people I'm hopefully going to get included in this Southern Sky observation.
I'm sure he'd be up for that. And I don't know.
Other people. I must say, he's the one. I haven't got a confirmation, but I've got a confirmation from about 10 people that they would do it in the next few months. Hopefully that.
Oh, according to Multi Tom, none of us can debunk flat Earth. Right. Well, I tell you what, Multi Tom, we'll debunk flat Earth then after you've debunked unicorns. All right. There you go.
I mean, how can you say a sunset is not possible on a flat Earth? Because if you had a sunset somewhere, that means it's gone below the lip of the flat Earth. There can be no light on the rest of the Earth. It's a flat Earth.
He made some comment about that earlier. He said, prove it or whatever, and I actually stated exactly that. And he said the sun doesn't set. Yeah.
Oh, of course, he claims it's going to get small. Well, of course, he claims it's just getting further away. Yeah, but it doesn't change in size. Oh, I presume he goes on about perspective. If you know anything about perspective, then it must change in size.
Yep.
And it doesn't if you use a solar filter. So don't start talking about bloody footage with solar filters on it, without solar filters on it.
I want to put a plug in here. I've been after Wolfie to when he comes to the United States to let me know so that I can join him someplace and bring my accurate theodolite and have him pick me up, and we can measure drop from horizontal to the horizon at different altitudes up to say 35,000 feet. Now, that'd be something fun to do.
And also, George has got some fantastic footage that I've been meaning to make a video about. He's actually got some taking observation every day of his lake, which is an amazing place, and he's got examples of looming that people have claimed that don't happen, where he can see a lake beyond the horizon that comes up under certain refraction conditions and appears above what is usually the horizon. And these pictures that George has got, absolutely fantastic, and didn't validate Rantis' current claim that looming doesn't happen, for instance.
Well, actually, Colon or one of the other mods, just so that it's in the chat as well, if someone could drop a link to George's channel, that would be great. You are linked, George, and a card and the description, I think, on the premiere. For both of you, I've updated to set your guests. I'll put your channel links in later, because I can't dig them out right now. I don't want to start mucking around at this point.
I'm hoping to get very active soon about videos. I'm going to do a definitive video about Rantis' observation of Blackpool, including some 3D modelling along with Phil Nye, the physics guy, with me, and it's going to be very comprehensive and from basics to.
You're dealing with Bill, are you?
Phil.
Oh,
Phil Nye. It's just something you wouldn't have heard of. Yeah, you wouldn't have heard of him. Phil Nye. It's just something.
I thought you said Bill Nye the Science Guy.
No, this is Phil Nye. Yes. It's a mock. It's a play on that, I think.
Yeah.
And so we've got some 3D modelling with one of the modelling refraction as well. And what's more, because we can modelling refraction, I can tell you where exactly the geometric and apparent horizons are, even though there is not actually much. There isn't a water horizon in the picture. We can derive where these horizons are, so we can do lots of extra things with this modelling that makes it even more fun than it would otherwise be. So yes, I'm going to get very active soon, and of course I've got this Bedford Levels type experiment based on George's thing he did a couple of years ago, with a live broadcast. Which hopefully, I'm inviting people like you to comment on a live, an 8-hour thing, which hopefully lots of people join in. And I've got about 8 people, something to do the thing, and another 4 or 5 people, including George, to actually sort of be live commentators on what's going on.
Well,
live broadcast.
I'm really glad, Rumpus, that you're going to do stuff with your channel. Do you remember a while back I invited you on, and because I thought you were never getting a chance to actually speak out and say anything without being Oakleyed. So I want to ask you that in general. Do you still, I'm not criticising.
I have been back on Oakley. I have, and indeed, I've just received supposedly a double whammy from Oakley, specialising in a couple of videos about me, and QE has gone bonkers about me, supposedly demolishing me in some video in which he says things like, when I say things like, this might be a question for the people in the panel, actually, I don't know whether can acceleration and velocity be in different directions? Because one of the things he mocks me about is the fact that I've said that you can have velocity in one direction and acceleration in another, and he seems to think that's very amusing. I'm hoping that all the globers in the panel realise that's not a problem. But
yes, that's right.
As far as
if you're in space and you're travelling along, you have a velocity. If you fire your thrusters against the direction you're going, you're accelerating in the other direction, aren't you?
Correct. And the same thing happens if you brake in a car.
Yeah.
You're still going forwards and you're braking, your acceleration is in the opposite direction to your velocity, and apparently QE can't understand this. He also doesn't understand the difference between the second law of thermodynamics and entropy, and he thinks that when I say that the Earth is not subject to the second law of thermodynamics because, of course, it's getting all this energy from the sun, he doesn't realise that that's an issue. Anyway, he's done a hit piece on me, which I'm going to have to answer with a video. And I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I had a debate with him about 3 or 4 years ago, and he's never debated anybody properly since on it was called the Flat Earth Debate Channel. And it was so embarrassing for him that actually the moderator, the guy who owned the channel, was a flat earther, and he actually pleaded with QE to stop talking because he was losing so badly, which is not something I expected. But ever since then, he's never ever come out into a neutral environment to debate. Same with Oakley, about the Isle of Man. I debated him on Steve McRae's channel, and that was the last time he ever appeared in a debate thing.
I thought the last time he appeared was when was it Katz shut him down?
Well, that wasn't really. Well, that was on a neutral environment. He was with Randy. And yes, I wouldn't call that a debate. He just came on, didn't he? Katz. I can't remember how they managed to cross thing there. And then Katz
I thought it was
about diffraction. I don't
yes,
think
that's it.
Him.
Oh, I thought that was a debate with Ranty modding.
Yeah, I think it was only 5 minutes. I think only had a 5 minutes exchange in which Katz asked Nathan what diffraction was as opposed to refraction, and of course Nathan had no idea. And many of these flatties, you ask them that same question: what's the difference between diffraction and refraction? And they get utterly confused. Lemon Bird, for instance, when I asked him that a few months ago, he gave me the definition for refraction rather than diffraction, even though I made it very, very clear I was talking about diffraction. They don't know the difference. They don't know these basic terms. Then they've got the confidence that it can only come with having a real heavy dose of Dunning-Kruger. It's just extraordinary. The more stupid and ignorant they are, the more confident. QE, I'm afraid, is another example. So yes, so the upshot is, the answer is yes. I'm going to get very active on my channel.
Good.
I'm going to do a hit piece back on QE. So yeah, there should be some fun action.
So do you think this is just a genuine question? Do you still think, from your perspective, there's something to be gained by going on Oakley's channel for you?
Well, actually, yes, there is actually, because I told you at the time that I did it as a sort of test of myself, amongst other things, in an environment where I could be muted, but other reasons as well. I wanted to prevent his influence on other people, neutral people, as well as testing arguments. And indeed, when you interact with these flatties, you do find, what's the one that I hadn't considered? I'm doing this huge 250-page document about the Isle of Man observations. I didn't do much of it last year for various reasons. And you find their arguments. There was one new, for instance, you wouldn't have, this is just a typical thing. When I first started doing it, I didn't realise that anybody would be stupid enough to question an orthographic view of in a diagram.
Yes.
And then you suddenly get Riley and Nathan Oakley and QE that talk about it's invalid, that you're somehow seeing the side of your head, not realising that you generate a perspective view from the orthographic view. And things like buildings, aeroplanes, cars, bridges are all designed using orthographic view. And then if you want to generate a perspective view, you then put the observer in your orthographic view and then say, right, now what's the distances to objects? And I can then create a perspective view from that view. But they seem to think that all views are perspective views from an observer, not realizing the validity of the orthograph view, which is just simply representing the positional data in a diagram. They seem to think that's invalid.
Did you see that Flatsoid, this whole Blackpool Tower thing? Did you see his model of it with several items? And then he'd made the tower, or whichever,
Twice as big. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that was his
He made the
first one.
mountain
He was
twice
called.
as big.
Yeah, but he was called out on that, so he did it again. But then he made one of the things smaller, and he said, "Well, that's because of perspective." Oh no! Perspective just takes effect. You don't have to actually make it smaller.
That's right. The looking exercise does that. Your little camera does all the perspective work. You make things as they are, and the camera, the viewing operation, does the perspective transform for you. You don't have to do anything.
And if he's right, you make that tower and that mountain to scale and the distances to scale, look at it with your camera, and boom, you've proved you're flat Earth. Or not.
Exactly. Or not, yes.
Yes.
That is the test. So indeed, these people, I mean, you see, that's the sort of thing that you discover. As I say, you don't really... I'm always amazed, I've discussed it with George Miglin, so I'm always stunned that every few weeks they'll say something that you could not possibly... Go ahead.
I'll just say... I might have... No, it's just come. Colon, thank you very much for your help. I really appreciate it. Good night to you. I just had to say that. And thanks for helping sort out with George. That's brilliant. Cheers, pal.
You don't imagine the sort of things they will come up with, and I've just forgotten the example I was going to come up
sorry.
with. Like gases, like for instance, I mean, we've got people like Chemo claiming that there's no such thing as gas pressure. We've got QE claiming that this thing about you can't have pressure without a container. So interacting with these people, and the way they misunderstand something like Nathan thinks that because steam coming out of a kettle invalidates because that invalidates the gravitational traction. So it's only by interacting with them you realise just how stupid they are and how to tackle them. So, for instance, why the steam rises, of course, is because of buoyancy effects. And then when you tell them that it behaves like bouncy balls, they think, well, hold on, that means they're all going down, are they? No, you can have acceleration just like bouncy balls. If I throw a load of bouncy balls up in the air,
that drives me
still
crazy.
Being accelerated downwards.
Yeah, but that drives me crazy when he's talking about solid bouncy balls. They're not. No, but as I know, I've heard you say to him, each of those bouncy balls is representing a molecule of gas or an atom or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it drives me crazy.
Exactly right. So indeed, so they will then say, but hold on, a bouncy ball is made up of lots of atoms. That's not the point. As you just said, the ball is the analogous to an atom.
And the atoms are made of lots of little things as well.
Exactly right, Mr. S. Correct. So we're just worrying about behaviour of atoms, and if you throw a bouncy ball up in the air at 500 meters per second, which is this sort of typical speed of a nitrogen molecule, it will go up about 60 miles before it comes back down again, and that's what happens with atoms. If they throw, of course, they're going to hit lots of atoms on the way. But if you throw up a bouncy ball at 500 meters upwards, then it's going to take a long time before it comes. So it's still being accelerated downwards, just like we were talking about earlier. This is the thing I don't understand. I was saying to you earlier, they don't understand that acceleration and velocity can be in different directions. And if you don't understand that, then you get these very strange ideas that all atoms must be going downwards, and of course not realizing that when they affect, just like a bouncy ball, when they hit the ground, a bouncy ball then, if without friction, will go back up to that 60 miles that it started off at, and it would carry on doing so without any frictional forces. And atoms do much the same because, of course, the elastic collision, but they don't lose energy, unlike bouncy balls.
But getting back to. Well, I was just going to say, if I could just finish off about Oakley. With regard to Oakley, though, I appreciate what you're saying, but do you not think if you stopped, then they really would be in an echo chamber? I mean, his views are going down anyway, but do you think that would help kill off his channel? I
think you're right. Yes, and I know you raised this point before, and I was, as I told you at the time, I don't want to be giving him content, but I think I can be there sufficiently not to give him content, but to provide an alternative view and to discern what their arguments are, and also to do my own little sort of personal ego test of whether I can cope with an argument.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, my friend. If I was providing, I think as I gave you the same answer before, if I was giving them content and I was keeping them alive, then giving them life support, then I would say that would be a bad thing.
Well, George just said that you are.
You are giving them content.
Well, yes, but if it's a really small amount and it's not the difference between them succeeding or not, then I think I can morally justify it. But if it was making the difference between whether or not he was surviving or not, then I would stop it. But I don't think I'm that important.
Well, the thing is, however important you are or aren't in the general scheme of things, Rumpus, you're extremely important to him because no other bugger goes on his channel.
This is true, yes. But I don't think I think there are enough invested people that they want to believe anything and they like the echo chamber. And in fact, I mean, when I go on Brandon's occasionally, They object to me speaking. They want the echo. In fact, they've been pleading for an echo chamber for me not to go on there.
Really?
I know I go on there about twice a week or something, and they claim that that they want more of an echo chamber. So I think they like. I mean, that's why. It's almost like saying, why are these internet communities existing that believe in this little thing hiding away talking amongst themselves, and they do that. I think there's little communities that come together, and in many ways, just like the American and Fox News and things, they do like being amongst one of themselves and reinforce one things. And actually, the idea of some other negative criticism coming in is something that they don't like. So I don't think I'm going to make the difference between whether Nathan Oakley continues to exist or not. And from what I say, my personal is it's useful to interact with him so I can argue better. And I don't think I'm making a difference.
Well, he is dying off. I mean, a year ago when I was in Colorado, I was spending some time in his channel there, and he was consistently getting about 250 to 300 views during his live show. And I've checked in periodically, just brought it up to see how many live views he has, and he's now consistently down around 150. So
it's not good for 19,000 subscribers. It's not good. Can I just jump in? I just had a wonderful super chat from David Oliver, £20, saying, "Good night, Mr. Sensible and everybody. My mouth, cheek, jaw and teeth been hurting. Had my wisdom tooth removed Saturday the 1st. Still hurting. But today I got prescribed amoxicillin. Just hope it helps my gum and mouth problems." Well, I hope so too, David. Thank you very much for the generous super chat. Sleep well without pain. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, I think Google's YouTube algorithm has definitely hit them there. We're used to always be offering these flat Earth suggestions, and I'll be clicking on those. And now you have to struggle to actually find their channels. So obviously YouTube is doing the business here.
It is helping.
So
George, you said in a comment, you wondered why you suddenly got more views and that to your Force the Line video. Now you know why. Are you going to tackle this anymore? Because obviously they're trying now to go ahead with this again.
I see no sense to it. I mean, what can I add that I didn't do to that video when I produced it 3 years? I don't know. Or I can.
Yeah.
You can improve the audio, George. It's very. At that time you had to speak from.
Yes, we know. I know. I've been doing this with you before. Ever since I upgraded to Windows 10, it's all gone south on me.
Oh, I'm on Windows 7.
There was a phase when George had terrible audio, and unfortunately, it was in that video, that phase. And then his video improved a lot. His audio improved a lot, and now for some reason George has got Windows 10, and it's screwed up his audio again.
Don't talk to me about audio.
I want to point out something to Mr. Sensible.
Yeah.
I posted in the chat there 3 photographs. These were taken when I was out in Colorado last year. I went up
in the chat where? In general chat. Okay, let me just go in there and have a look. If I can find it.
This is to help with any discussions upon whether or not Verizon rises to high level.
Oh yes.
That was made. And in the 3 photographs there, the top one where you see kind of a clouded image of a tree with a and you see some crosshairs. What I did is look in the middle photograph. I was up on a parking lot up in the mountains out east over the plains of Colorado, and there's 2 trees, one on the left, one on the right. The left tree is something that I'm focusing on. I had a ladder and I went to the tree and determined where the auto level was separating the tree.
You're breaking up, George.
Yeah.
We can barely hear you, George. You're breaking up a lot.
Okay. Is the audio better now or not?
No, I think it's an internet issue. See, I think it's an internet issue. You're actually losing you completely. It's not just the microphone.
It's not good. But the whole business with that, they can't grasp the difference, or they can't grasp the meaning of eye level, because someone was talking to me about perspective going off into eye level, and I said, well, his perspective looking up a skyscraper, you can see it appearing to get narrower towards the top, but it's not at your eye level; it's your line of sight. But they can't tell the difference between line of sight and eye level.
Absolutely right, Mr.
So when you look at a horizon, you're looking at the horizon. Your eye's drawn to that. That's your line of sight, is at the horizon. But it's not at your eye level. But we just cannot grasp these simple concepts.
Well, that reminds me of another QE tackled me in his recent video, which was that the definition of horizontal in his eyes was the horizon. Even though etymologically it may have come from that, a horizontal for someone is the 90 degrees to a plumb bob that you've got next to you. And apparently that's beyond his understanding, and apparently beyond Bev's understanding.
I was just going to say, Bev, yeah, because I had him on here and I argued about that for 2 hours with him.
Right, yes, I think I may have seen that.
Yeah, because he's going to be doing his test, and it's been months and months and months. He wants.
You know, he's going to try and go to my test when I do this the drop Bedford levels George type test. The Bedford levels area. He said he was going to come along and actually demonstrate that it was level at the same time that morning. He would come along, so I'm going to publicise it, and then he'll know where I am, where it's going to happen.
Well,
and he said he would come along and then do his own.
Rumpus, far be it from me. The last thing I want to do is to dox you. I'm assuming from your accent you're UK.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sort of central UK. Can you sort of give any indication where in the UK you are? I'm not asking you to dox yourself.
I'm somewhere north of London.
Okay, so it may not be a million miles away, because
no, it may not.
If you're going to do something like this, I might like to.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Get involved in some way.
I do need. I've got about 6-7 people, and I've got about 5 posts that I need to be raised and learned throughout the day because I'm going to test for refraction. So I've got these posts that people need to be able to manually. I'm building them. I've already built some of them, and they need to be able to pull them up. And I've got one of them is 30 feet high. So these are big things. These posts need pulling up and down, and I need some. I've got about say 5-6 people, which would probably be enough, and I've got about 4 or 5 posts, and I've got. They need to be taking measurements using George's thermistor trick to do a temperature profile vertically every sort of half a meter or so, and then I'm going to do a live observation for 8 hours. So yeah, I mean, and the place it's going to be is in Norfolk though, so it might be a bit further away from you.
Yeah, that's a bit further, but when you get to the point where you're starting to think about it, drop me a line and let's see if it's something can work out.
Okay, it might be in about 9 weeks' time.
Okay.
Date. And okay, I'll get on to you about that. That'd be nice actually, Mr. S. You doing that because I do need the manpower, and I've got telescopes and alter levels and things looking at this, and with live stream sorted, and there's a hell of a lot involved in doing all this.
Well, sounds interesting. I'd be willing.
Actually, Mr. S, I need a video producer.
Oh, hold on. Where's George gone? Oh,
he's gone off to get his microphone fixed, I think.
Oh,
I
right.
actually do need a video producer, and I've gone through 2. And one of the reasons I didn't do it last year is I tried to use I went through 2, and both of them, when they committed to doing it, then within a week they either got a new job that prevented them from doing anything, or they had their work rate suddenly went up, and they eventually had to give up. So possibly the most useful role you could have if you were available.
Well, I tell you what. Right now, I work a random rotating shift.
Sunday. This would be a Sunday.
I work a random rotating shift pattern. This week I'm working. The first day of the week for me is this Sunday, but then other times it's slap bang in the middle of my rest day. So it's really going to depend.
Do you know what the work you're doing on June the 20th?
No, not at all. No, not from now. I can look it up, but not now.
But that actually, as much as I'd love to see you, that may be the most important contributor, because that will be absolutely critical. So you might have 4 or 5 iPhone feeds, and as well as some videos prepared to do this, and live observation for 8 hours. And that is a tricky task.
It is, isn't it? Well, listen, I am not committing to it right now. What I'll say is get in touch with me, especially nearer the time, and then we'll see if there's anything I can do, because I was envisaging more along the lines of being one of the errand boys doing bits and pieces for you. But let's see.
Okay, yeah.
We'll see what works out. I'm happy to discuss. And good luck with it. It sounds interesting, and it sounds as though you've made more effort than Bev has with his flipping water level thing, because I just realised Colon's gone. Colon's gone.
Huge effort with it. Yes, it's a big project.
Yeah, I just realised Colon's gone. So George is sat in there. I'm not going to know if he's ready. George, if you can hear me, hold on, he has DM'd me. Can you put it back on? Oh, right, yes, okay. I'll bring you back in, George. Fingers crossed. There we go, George. How's that? Fingers crossed. He's muted right now.
Come on, George.
Shout when you're ready, George.
He's gone back to his old system, apparently.
Oh, hello, George.
But if his internet connection is the problem, then obviously we're not going to get very far.
Well, I'll
We
probably
can't
be
use
stopping.
George
I'll probably be
speaking.
stopping in just a few minutes anyway.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, so with regard to this whole force the line thing, quite apart from the fact that it's obviously to me, you, George, and 99% of the people here, it obviously physically is not going to be a thing possible to do. Do you think that this is just people not understanding that and they genuinely want to do it, but they just have no idea that they can't? Or do you think there's something dodgy?
Correct. People may do something dodgy in the end, but I don't think that's their primary motive.
Yeah.
I think they may end up possibly just cocking things up and possibly seeing an opportunity in the end. But I think ultimately it is just stupid people not realising the problems, and they just want to do something positive to support their claim.
Yeah. So the other thing is, of course, I mean, we've seen problems with. I mean, look at Austin Whitsitt and with Nathan Thompson. Nathan running off with the money, or whatever it is. We're not talking there with £100,000. I mean, I'm not saying he'll get it, but if you get anything like that, then it's getting seriously. Hello?
Hey, George.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, let me turn you down a bit. You got volume this time anyway.
Yeah, I switched laptops. And
That's better.
That's much better, George.
Okay, go ahead. Continue on.
Yeah, I was just saying that this guy, Flatty McFlatface, I have no idea of who he is really. He's going to have thousands of pounds, if they raise it, thousands of pounds sat in his own personal bank account, just on everyone trusting his honesty. And he may well be an honest chap. That doesn't sit comfortably for me.
It's a silly. He obviously hasn't worked. I mean, if he'd actually bothered to come up with a spreadsheet of his costs, and you could take him seriously, but clearly, just because he's a flat earther, he's not going to be able to think about something properly and cost it out, and then think, manufacturing all these things and the posts and the
Exactly.
I mean, just the manual labour. He can't do it by himself. You'd need a team. You'd probably need a team of about 30, 40 people to do this.
Well, I mean, I said about the fact he hasn't cost it, has he? He hasn't said, well, it's this many posts at so much a pop, this many connections, nothing. Just, well, I said 100,000 because I thought that might motivate people. I was going to ask for 500,000. That's pulling figures out your arse. That's really worrying.
Yeah, that exactly demonstrates the level of thought he's put into this, and just goes back to the fact that he's just a stupid person, not realising how stupid he is, and certainly having no idea. Just like Riley not realising how to measure something, put a vertical post in to measure a bank. They just sort of, Dunning-Kruger, I want to do this thing, so yeah, let's think of something. Don't think about it too hard, and off you go. That's it. Silly people.
And your thoughts on it, George? Do you think it's a scam or stupidity? Oh, he's muted again. Oh,
I think it's primarily stupidity.
yeah.
I mean, these guys really don't understand science or engineering at any level.
Yeah.
Or anything practical. Yeah. I mean, George knows. I mean, the stuff I've just doing, this bloody post thing that I'm trying to do, I didn't think it would take quite as long as George. Obviously, spent 2 months doing. I mean, George, even though he's an engineer, the time it took him to do his Bedford levels type experiment was many months to do it, and found lots of problems and had to fix them all. And he if I'd asked him to project how long it would have taken him, I bet he wouldn't. The rule is, of course, to multiply by 3 any time you think something's going to take with a practical job.
He's probably thinking, we'll do it on Saturday the 17th. Yeah, right. Oh dear. Well, I think what I'm going to do, I'm glad you got back in here at the end, George. I really am. And I'm pleased and honoured that you decided to jump on the stream. I really am. And you did some fantastic maths there. And I couldn't resist nicking that clip when you said about it's less than the wavelength of green light. It really shows the accuracy that's needed that they just don't comprehend.
Yep, they won't have done that calculation. They will not have actually bothered to. Brian Mullen never obviously did any maths at all to work out how accurate his thing had to be.
No, he came up with a concept, and the concept is fine, isn't it, as a concept? But actualising it, that's something else.
I'm not sure it is. I mean, because the concept has to involve real things, and when you just put in anything real in this, it just doesn't work. It's if you could draw it out, then it would work. Yes, if you weren't actually in the real world and you could just draw things in a diagram or in some 3D package, okay. But the whole point about this is it was a mechanical, real world test, and therefore, if it doesn't include real
physical
world
mechanics,
problems,
yes,
it's just bollocks. And he claimed to be an engineer, and he hadn't done any of the basic calculations to work out how accurate this damn thing had to be, which made me very suspicious about it. Well, he's demonstrated in many other videos that he's actually incompetent. He doesn't know anything about physics.
Well, I'd never seen any of his
diagrams.
I'd never seen any of Brian's videos.
Oh my God. He had the classic problem, for instance, he thought these things like the ISS would burn up in space because the temperature up there is 20,000 degrees. He thought that just if the Earth was spinning, you took off from one airport and landed in another.
An engineer thought that?
Yes, I know. It's incredible. The guy's an absolute moron.
Has he never heard of conservation of momentum?
And linear and relative velocity. No, he didn't understand any of these basic issues, which makes me absolutely terrified whatever he's involved in.
So you'll be telling me next he doesn't get Coriolis either?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, this guy didn't get relative velocity. He didn't understand. He had a whole bloody 25-minute video about aircraft taking off horizontally east to west from a runway in Los Angeles and trying to get to somewhere, I think it was in South Carolina or something, or Florida. And he couldn't understand. He added in all these various, the velocity of the Earth at various incorrect points and how it would steer. I mean, he couldn't do basic kinematics. And so, the guy's a moron. I mean, he's a flat earther, for Christ's sake. I mean, George did several videos on some of his stuff, and the guy's a moron.
Right, okay. So I think what I'll do is have that as your final word, Rumpus. What I'll do is I'll say thank you for jumping in. It's really been great speaking to you again. Okay, and I really do look forward to your channel becoming active. And please definitely give us a shout nearer the time, and we'll see if it's something we can work out. I can't commit to anything right now. Like I said, I don't even know what dates I'm working right now. But I'd like you to contact me, and we'll see what we can do.
I will.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Rumpus. I'll drop you in the waiting room. There's a few people in there, and I'll just say goodbye to George then, all right? Okay, cheers, pal. Bye-bye. Thank you, Rumpus. And George, as I said, I'm really pleased and honoured that you joined us tonight. It meant a lot to me. It was good to see you comment on my video, but then to have you come in the chat and then on the stream is wonderful.
Yeah, well, thank you. In regards to your question, I shouldn't say that the flat earthers are stupid. They're just undereducated.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying.
Quite unaware. They just don't have the knowledge to critically think these things through.
Yeah.
And, they're just they're not even at a basic level. They a lot of their understandings is that of a child. It's really quite sad thinking that these are adult men. But
you need to know how much you don't know, don't you? I mean, I can understand this stuff at a layman's level. When it gets to the calculations you did, well, that's not me. But I understand there's a problem. They don't understand there's a problem.
Well, exactly. I mean, and a lot of it too, I think, is just a lack of practical experience. I mean, I found through life that the best engineers that I deal with are those that used to monkey around and tinker as kids and build things, and weren't glued to the TV. Actually went outside and went through the school of hard knocks. Built go-karts, modified their bicycles, things like that. And I doubt that these people have that sort of experience. They just sit and watch YouTube videos and really have no practical experience.
George, can I ask you a totally unrelated question?
Sure.
Yep. Please tell me, in my video, I said your name. How well did I say your name? Hnatiuk.
That's close. It's better than most people.
I tried my best. Can I ask whereabouts from around the world that comes from?
It's Ukrainian.
Ukrainian, okay.
Yeah, the correct pronunciation that you'd find in the Ukraine is Hnatiuk.
Hnatiuk.
But most people in the U.S. say Hnatiuk or Hnatiuk.
Okay, cool.
Hnatiuk is how I pronounce it.
Well, I did my best anyway. Oh, right. Well, listen, George, thank
H
you.
is silent. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
The H is silent.
Oh, it's silent. Hnatiuk. Okay. I did pronounce the H, but there we go. Okay, I shall try and endeavour to remember that. So thank you very much, George. What I'll do is I'll pop you in the live waiting room. There's a few people in there, and after I've closed the stream, I'll jump in just to kick it for 5 minutes. So
Oh, just real quick. What
Yeah.
I was trying to tell you about those photographs that I put in the chat
Oh,
there
yes.
for you is this was done on the Front Range of Colorado last spring. And what I did is I went up into the Front Range Mountains, and I'm overlooking east towards Kansas. And what you have there is if you look at the middle photograph, that is the view that I had from the parking lot looking east. And there's two trees I framed, one on the left, one on the right. And I put a ladder next to the left tree so I could get up there, and I mounted a auto level back in the parking lot and shot that tree and found the spot on the tree that the auto level was sighting a horizontal on, and that's what the top photograph is. I put a little ribbon
I
there.
see, yes.
Orange ribbon, and you can see the crosshairs hitting that ribbon. And that's to give me a reference when, if you zoom in on the left tree in the middle photograph, you can find that branch and that ribbon, and then that establishes a horizontal. And then I took that image, and the third photograph on the bottom is I drew a horizontal line where the auto level was hitting the tree across. So that establishes a horizontal, and you can see that the horizon is definitely below that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as you get up, I was up about 1,500 feet or so up off the plains there. So you definitely see
And I
that
mean,
the horizon.
we've seen those simple examples with people with water levels, the U-shaped thing with coloured
Exactly.
water in. I mean, how they can deny it, I don't know. But that's flat earthers for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Denial, that's their mantra in life.
Okay, listen, thank you very much. And you're always welcome to, if you ever see me on and if you fancy it, jump into the live waiting room and drag you on for a chat, okay?
Fair enough.
All right,
Yeah,
you take care,
enough.
my friend. Thank you.
Enjoyable. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye-bye. Wow, that was a nice way to round it off. And I'm dead chuffed that both Rumpus and George came in. Obviously, both very clever people. Yeah, Flatty McFlatface et al. It ain't going to work, okay? Do an experiment. Think of a better experiment. Think of an experiment that could actually work, as in you could physically do it, and see what the results is, whether it's flat or curved, okay? But this ain't it. As Rumpus was saying, it may be perfect. Well, I said it was mathematically sound, and he said, doing the maths, yeah. But when you try and convert that into reality, you find that you can't. So save your money, save your time, save your effort. And as I said, Flatty, protect yourself. Because if you take in tens of thousands of pounds, if you get it, into your bank account, you are lining yourself up for a world of hurt legally if something goes wrong. And we might be on the other sides of this debate, but I don't want to see that happen to you. Everyone, thank you very much. Thanks again to the new member, Matt Powell Unofficial. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the super chats. Thank you everyone for joining us. I just had a look, and that stream, which I think was 280 odd real time, has now had 1.6 thousand views in 2 hours. That's rather good. Rather good. So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it. Spread the word about this Fast the line. I think we should call it Fast the line, because even if they're not scammers, people are going to lose money. Oh, my phone jumping out in and out of charge. I'll take it off. So thank you all for joining me. Take care. Not sure what's next. Keep an eye out. It looks like it's going to be over a week before I do the reveal on the item, but I will do it as soon as I can. So take care, y'all. See you all soon. Good night. Stay sensible. I've got to find the button now. There it is. Bye-bye.
Mr. Sensible, Mr. Sensible, bring me some cheese, and get me only the best if you please. display them. Yea, Victor, well, or you have Arnold slay them. Mr. Sensible, you are a man. Every subscriber is a faithful fan. Bring your logic and your cheese. Mr. Sensible, help us out, please. Mr. Sensible, I needed proof of gravity, so I jump off the roof. It's hard enough, let me go further. Why was I ever such a darn flat earther? Mr. Sensible, I'm such a clown. I am the laughing stock of the town. Bring your logic and your cheese. Mr. Sensible, help me out, please. Mr. Sensible, bring me a sphere, to which the waters of the oceans adhere. Have explanations, but let me be candid. So clear that all the fluffers understand it. Mr. Sensible, please hear my call. The earth is not flat, so let's have a ball. So bring your logic and your cheese.